Never would I have thought. A miserable designer, overworked to death, actually transmigrated into a novel. As the villainous girl I hated the most, Oiv, despite being a duke's daughter, repeatedly committed evil deeds and ultimately died tragically by the male lead's sword. And wouldn't you know it, the moment I transmigrated here, I stumbled upon the scene of my fickle fiancé breaking off our engagement. Jiangmi recalled the plot. This broken engagement was the catalyst that led Oiv down the path to her death. Transmigrating at this point in time is really unfortunate. Jiangmi, having read the novel 100 times, made up her mind. She must change her doomed fate with her own hands. I'm breaking off our engagement, Inobria yelled. The surrounding crowd whispered, gossiping about Oiv's various misdeeds. Otherwise, Inobria wouldn't be breaking off the engagement. At this moment, the crown prince looked at Oiv and asked, "Do you have any objections to Inobria's cancellation of the engagement?" Before Oiv could respond, another voice chimed in from behind. "It must be hard to be dumped, right? Those strange rumors must be false, right? What proper young lady would do such things?" Oiv turned around to see it was the female lead, Kayla, making her entrance. When she read the novel before, she always thought Kayla's character was strange. Despite her innocent and romantic persona, she was always observing and analyzing others' words. On the surface, she appeared to be speaking up for Oiv, but in reality, she was mocking Oiv's lack of manners. The crown prince, seeing that Oiv hadn't answered for a while, asked again impatiently, "Are you unwilling to break off the engagement?" Oiv smiled faintly and curtsied respectfully. She replied that she had long wanted to cancel the engagement. The crown prince was quite surprised by this answer. Oiv glanced at Inobria behind her and explained, "Actually, I already have someone I admire. Thank you, Inobria, for your understanding." Then, after curtsying, she prepared to leave. The little green tea, Kayla, wouldn't let it go and jumped back in, exclaiming dramatically, "Miss Oiv actually has someone she admires? Then you must be getting married soon, right?" These words reminded Oiv that after the broken engagement, her father would immediately arrange blind dates for her. But any potential suitors would detest and look down on her because of her bad reputation, ultimately leading to her reputation becoming even worse. She had to find a way to shut them up. The green tea heroine, Kayla, was still clamoring. "That person must be very outstanding, right? Can you tell us who he is?" "It's His Highness, the Crown Prince." Oiv turned and said loudly. Hearing these words, both Kayla and the Crown Prince were greatly shocked. The Crown Prince glared coldly at Oiv. What nonsense is this foolish woman spouting? Oiv thought to herself, as long as everyone knew she admired the Crown Prince, they wouldn't be able to force her into marriage in the future. After all, the Crown Prince would never marry her. The Crown Prince said coldly, "We've never met before, have we?" Oiv put on an extremely hurt expression. "We have met, Your Highness, don't you remember? Anyway, I won't give up on liking Your Highness." After saying this, she seized the opportunity to flee the venue. Watching Oiv's departing figure, a sneer appeared on Kayla's face. "The Crown Prince is someone you can dream about. Only I am worthy of standing by the Crown Prince's side." Oiv left the banquet hall and looked at the beautiful starry sky. Suddenly, a wave of emotion washed over her. Is he really dead? Then, she resolutely made up her mind. Since heaven had given her a new life, no matter what, she must live this life well. Oiv, having transmigrated into the villainous, supporting female character, decided to change her doomed ending with her own hands. After the broken engagement, Oiv emerged from a banquet. A handsome man called out to her from behind. Turning around, she saw it was Rao, Oiv's knight. "The carriage is ready. Can we leave?" Oiv nodded vigorously. Rao was the character she felt the most sorry for in the novel. Suddenly, Rao knelt down and prostrated himself on the ground. Seeing the scene, Oiv remembered the original Oiv in the novel had a bad habit of stepping on Rao to get into the carriage. Feeling a pang of sympathy, she stepped forward and pulled Rao up. Then, to Rao's shock, she climbed into the carriage herself. Rao raised his hand and patted the place where Oiv had touched him, wondering what that vicious woman was up to now. Oiv, seeing this from inside the carriage, silently cried. She had forgotten that Rao hated her for being chubby. The thought of being disliked by a character she liked made her so sad. Back home, Oiv was immediately informed that the Duke was going to punish her. Remembering that this was also in the novel, but it only said that the Duke severely punished Oiv without mentioning any other specific details, she walked and thought about how she could avoid being punished. Just as she pushed open the door, she heard the Duke's roar. Oiv. What did you do tonight? Oiv calmly bowed. Father, it was Lady Enobria who broke off the engagement at the banquet. As the Duke's only daughter, my reputation doesn't matter. But if my reputation is affected, the Duke's reputation will also be ruined. I absolutely cannot implicate the Dukedom. The Duke didn't expect his daughter to say such a thing. He slowly stood up and walked to Oiv. Oiv, you've changed. Oiv, thinking her character was slipping, quickly tried to recover. I did do something wrong this time. Nonsense, the Duke said angrily. How can my daughter be wrong? It's all Enobria's fault. Oiv was startled. Was this the Duke's true character setting? Do you like the Crown Prince? The Duke asked. Yes, so please stop arranging blind dates for me, Oiv quickly replied. The Duke's face darkened. He sighed inwardly. The Crown Prince was not a simple man. After discussing this matter, the Duke waved Oiv away. Just then, his aide brought him a list of potential suitors. The Duke's eyes softened. That won't be necessary, he said. The aide stared dumbfounded. The Duke, who hadn't smiled since his wife's death, was actually smiling. Meanwhile, Oiv was looking for her room. Suddenly, she heard scolding from a nearby room. It was the maid, Zelrona, being punished for breaking a teapot. Oiv looked at the teapot shards on the tray. The teapot had clearly exploded on its own. She had always hated superiors who made their subordinates take the blame. She immediately helped the maid up, offered a few words of concern, and told Zelrona to clean up the shards. Zelrona looked at Oiv, resentful but daring not to speak, and cleaned up the shards herself. That night, Oiv dreamed of the moment she was killed. Waking up in a cold sweat, she heard a knock on her door. Opening the door, she found a servant who had delivered Kayla's invitation. Looking at the invitation, Oiv remembered the tea party mentioned in the novel. She and Kayla had worn the same dress. But the original Oiv couldn't stand Kayla wearing the same dress as her, so she ruined Kayla's dress. This had once again drawn attention to her. Although this matter was troublesome, the current Oiv didn't plan to avoid it seems I need to buy a new dress, she thought. She called out to Zelrona to prepare a carriage. Once everything was ready, Oiv ran into Rao again at the main gate. Seeing the injury on Rao's face, Oiv couldn't help but express her concern. Rao angrily turned away. Oiv refused to give up and reached out to touch Rao's wound. With a look of disgust, Rao slapped Oiv's hand away. Are you asking knowingly? He said coldly. The headmaid quickly stepped forward and ordered the guards to seize him. Rao laughed coldly. Just punish me as usual. Why bother with this fake concern? It's disgusting. Oiv understood that as long as he hated her, everything she did would be wrong. So, she ordered the guards to release Rao. As she passed by him, Oiv said, you can go back. I don't need your protection for a while. The head maid wanted to arrange a new knight for Oiv, but Oiv declared loudly, he's my only knight. Hearing this, a strange feeling suddenly welled up in Rao's heart. This woman was so strange. First, she showered him with meticulous care, and then she threw the gift he gave her in the trash. What was she trying to do? To escape the tragic fate of the cannon fodder supporting female character, Oiv decided to go shopping for a new dress. Riding in a carriage through the bustling streets, Oiv was thrilled. It was indeed the commercial street from the novel, bustling with people. She then instructed the coachman to stop by the roadside and got out to walk around on her own. The market streets in the novel were very different from those in reality. Oiv saw many things she had never seen before. It was so interesting. I won't buy everything, Oiv screamed internally. Just as Oiv was thinking this, a man suddenly rushed out of a nearby alley, bumping hard into her. Without saying a word, he quickly walked away. Oiv was hit quite hard. It took her a moment to realize her bag was gone. Why wallet? Oiv cried out. It was filled with her precious money. Hey, stop, Oiv roared. The thief looked back and saw a woman holding up her skirt, running towards him, shouting, stop, thief. Panicked, the thief accidentally bumped into a girl selling apples. The apples in the girl's basket went flying. One of them flew straight towards Oiv. Oh no, I can't dodge it. Oiv closed her eyes in fear. The next second, the apple was caught firmly by a man. He casually tossed it back to her and gestured for Oiv to wait while he retrieved her bag. In a flash, both of them were gone. At the next intersection, when Oiv finally caught up, breathless, the man had already knocked the thief to the ground. Oiv asked worriedly, are you hurt? The man turned around and returned the bag to Oiv. Oiv finally got a clear look at his face. He was a handsome blonde man. The blonde man smiled slightly. It's my pleasure to be of service to a lady. Oh my, he's so handsome. Oiv couldn't help but swoon. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the thief quietly pick up a knife from the ground and lunge at the blonde man. Look out behind you, Oiv quickly warned. The blonde man turned and grabbed the thief's wrist, then delivered a kick to the thief's stomach. This man is amazing, Oiv exclaimed internally, but outwardly, she pretended to be calm. The blonde man dropped the thief and apologized to Oiv that I'm so sorry you had to witness that. Oiv quickly waved her hand, indicating she wasn't scared. Inwardly, she marveled, this is just like a novel. Even a kind stranger is so good-looking. She bent down to help the girl pick up the scattered apples, and even paid for them. The blonde man watched all of this thoughtfully. Then he saw Oiv hand him the apples as a thank you. She then turned and entered the cake shop next door and bought some pastries as a gift. The blonde man accepted the pastries, smiling as he asked Oiv, "Can we meet again?" Oiv was secretly delighted. Meeting a handsome man again? Of course. The blonde man extended his hand to Oiv that I look forward to seeing you again, he said, then turned and left. As soon as he turned the corner, the smile disappeared from the blonde man's face. He quietly instructed his attendant, who had followed him, to investigate Oiv thoroughly, because she was so different from the rumors. With that, he waved his hand dismissively, threw all of Oiv's gifts in the trash. Never would she have imagined that the seemingly pure and harmless heroine, Kayla, was actually a deeply scheming, two-faced manipulator. The day of the tea party soon arrived. From afar, Oiv saw Crown Prince Reynold surrounded by noble ladies. She had thought he would be the last to arrive. As Oiv was thinking this, her eyes suddenly widened. It was the kind stranger. He seemed countless times gentler than Reynold. Oiv was smiling to herself when her view was blocked by two noble ladies. They were Kayla's two lackeys. They snidely remarked to Oiv, "Are you staring at the Crown Prince because you want to curry favor with him? No one besides our Kayla can stand beside the Crown Prince." Kayla, overhearing this, was very pleased. But Oiv, instead of getting angry, replied in an innocent tone, "Did the Crown Prince sneak out in the middle of the night and tell you he likes Kayla?" Then she shouted to everyone around, "Hey, who thinks the Crown Prince should marry Kayla? Raise your hand." Hearing this, the surrounding nobles quickly averted their gazes. Only the two lackeys foolishly raised their hands. Seeing them fall for a trap, Oiv immediately turned and pointed at them, saying to Reynold, "Your Highness, someone wants to make decisions about your marriage." The two lackeys were instantly dumbfounded. Reynold glared fiercely at them. "My marriage is not for the two of you to decide. If you haven't learned proper etiquette, go home and stay there." The two lackeys were practically scared witless. The blonde man, watching all of this, couldn't help but laugh that Reynold's actually been driven to his wits' end by this woman. Kayla, who had originally intended for Oiv to make a fool of herself, had the tables turned on her. Unwilling to accept this, she grabbed Oiv and falsely apologized for her lackeys, saying, "You don't mind, do you?" Smelling the strong scent of her two-facedness, Oiv calmly replied, "Of course not. It's not like they offended me." Kayla was instantly embarrassed. She quickly invited Oiv to sit beside her and then started talking about her family's desserts, inviting everyone to try them. Looking at the pastries in front of her, Oiv suddenly remembered another incident that happened at the tea party. A girl with a peanut allergy went into shock after accidentally eating a peanut cake. It was thanks to the doctor Kayla had brought that the girl survived. And because of this, Reynold developed favorable feelings towards her. "I can't let them get together yet," Oiv thought. "Otherwise, how will I be able to cozy up to him?" Oiv immediately started searching for the girl, but she couldn't recall what she looked like. Then she heard Kayla say, "Tatiana, try the cake." "Yes, that's her name." Looking up, she saw Tatiana picking up a piece of cake, about to put it in her mouth. "Wait!" Oiv rushed forward excitedly and grabbed Tatiana's hand. The girl's companions, mistakenly thinking Oiv was bullying her, stood up to defend Tatiana. Oiv had a sudden idea. She asked, "Can I trade cakes with you?" Kayla, watching from behind, looked a little anxious and said that if she wanted some, she could have the kitchen make another one. Oiv leaned down and whispered something to the girl. The girl was stunned for a moment, then nodded and let Oiv take the cake. Tatiana's companions, however, were indignant. The commotion irritated Reynold. The blonde man leaned closer and teased, "I wonder how delicious that cake must be for that lady to go through such lengths to get it." Reynold, however, felt that this behavior was inappropriate. Regardless, causing a scene is not something a noble lady should do. The blonde man was a little surprised. Reynold had never commented on any noble lady before. Although he had investigated and found no personal connection between Reynold and Oiv. He wanted to approach Oiv again to investigate further. I was trying to improve my image, Oiv thought dejectedly after the tea party. Sigh. Suddenly, someone called out to her from behind. Turning around, she saw it was Tatiana. Tatiana excitedly asked Miss Oiv, "How did you know I don't eat peanuts?" Oiv hadn't yet thought of how to answer this question. She couldn't very well say she'd read it in a novel. Just then, Reynold, who was talking to Kayla, also saw this scene. Oiv replied that she simply liked things with a peanut flavor. But Tatiana gratefully said, "Regardless, you saved my life today. Thank you so much." A thought suddenly popped into Reynold's mind. Was this really just a coincidence? She was supposed to be just an ignorant and spoiled young lady. Yet, she had transformed, her mind now comparable to a military strategist. Even his Duke father had praised her for it, and she was still worried about not winning over the Crown Prince. After much gossiping at the tea party, at the dining table at home, the Duke brought up her marriage again. He expressed that he still hoped she would give up on the Crown Prince and marry a reliable man. The border war had been escalating recently. The Crown Prince was about to personally go and suppress the rebellion. Being by the Crown Prince's side was simply too dangerous. Hearing this, Oiv couldn't help but sigh. This father unexpectedly loved his daughter quite a lot. Wait, had the plot already reached this point at the border? Recalling the plot of the novel, because of a leak from a traitor, Reynold's side suffered a crushing defeat. He was not only injured, but the Emperor also stripped him of his military power. His prestige was greatly diminished. Oh my, this was a great opportunity to do him a favor. Maybe she could even get an exemption from death out of it. Acting immediately, Oiv wrote about the traitor in a letter. But fearing the letter might be intercepted by the traitor, Oiv decided to deliver the letter to him personally. But reality was often crueler than imagined. The letter she offered was promptly thrown away by Reynold. Even when they encountered each other on the road, she was immediately brushed off by Reynold. It wasn't until Oiv, under the guise of giving a gift, tried to get Reynold to accept it, that it was disdainfully tossed aside. Oiv finally couldn't stand it anymore. She was clearly trying to do him a favor, but it felt like she was desperately pursuing him. At this time, rumors were also spreading throughout social circles that Oiv wanted to sleep with Reynold. It was utterly absurd. Seeing that the Crown Prince was about to depart for the front, Oiv came up with another plan. She would simply ask her father for help. It just so happened that the Duke was waiting for her. A thick stack of matchmaking profiles lay on the table. Oiv couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. With so many people, it felt like they could circle the earth twice. The Duke solemnly said, "Give up on the Crown Prince." Oiv was instantly speechless. After a pause, she told her father that she actually sought the Crown Prince for another matter. She had just looked at the border map and had some thoughts she wanted to discuss with the Crown Prince. She would explain them to her father first. Then Oiv began to talk about the military issues between the two countries. Watching the eloquent Oiv, the Duke couldn't stop nodding in agreement. After she finished speaking, the Duke applauded in astonishment. He asked, "Did you come up with all of this yourself?" Then he exclaimed, "It's absolutely perfect, worthy of being my heir." Oiv felt a little guilty and quickly said it was all thanks to her father's teachings. The Duke looked extremely pleased and said he would immediately relay this battle plan to the Crown Prince. Inwardly, Oiv cheered excitedly. Success. The next day, Oiv received an invitation from Reynold. Oiv dressed beautifully that day. The moment he saw Oiv, Reynold asked, "Weren't you angry that I didn't see you before?" Oiv smiled faintly. "Whether or not you see me is your prerogative. Therefore, I wouldn't hold any resentment because of it." Reynold couldn't help but gaze at this woman. Her answer surprised him. He hadn't expected her to be so composed. Then he added, "You came up with a battle plan yourself. If I adopt this plan, and yet it failed, aren't you afraid the entire Duke's household will be held responsible?" Oliver, however, wasn't anxious. Instead, he asked with a smile, "My battle plan should be identical to yours, shouldn't it? You want to use this plan simply because you think your battle plan is perfect." But Oliver's tone suddenly shifted. He said seriously, "I advise you to abandon this plan, because even someone like me can think of it. The enemy nation will certainly be able to guess it as well." Oliver then took a few steps closer to Reynold, leaned in close to his ear, and whispered, "How can you guarantee that no one will leak the battle plan?" At this moment, the arrival of a maid broke the tense atmosphere. "Have a seat." Reynold gestured. When he saw that all the pastries brought out were peanut-flavored, Reynold felt a bit awkward. He had only asked the kitchen to make a few peanut-flavored ones, so why were there so many? Meanwhile, Oiv made a note in her mental notebook. Reynold likes to eat peanuts. Then, smiling, she picked up a spoon and took a bite. Quite delicious, she said to Reynold after swallowing. I do have a good idea. While Oiv and Reynold were talking, a man in the distance was quietly watching everything. This is so strange, he thought. The Crown Prince actually refused a green tea heroine's gift and instead reached out to the villainous cannon fodder Villainess. This story is getting weirder and weirder. That day, a maid brought her younger brother, Tia, to thank Oiv. She thanked her for saving her brother's life and declared her eternal loyalty to Oiv. Upon hearing this, Oiv smiled and extended an invitation to Cha, hoping she would become her personal maid. Cha, overwhelmed with gratitude, immediately agreed. A few days later, Crown Prince Reynold was about to set off on his military expedition. To maintain her persona of being in love with the Crown Prince, Oiv had to squeeze into the crowd to see Reynold off. Cha was the loudest among them. Ever since becoming Oiv's personal maid, Cha firmly believed that her mistress and the Crown Prince would eventually become a couple and declare that she would definitely help them get together. After Reynold politely declined the gifts offered by the noble young ladies, the heroine, Kayla, made her dazzling entrance. She appeared with a shy expression and coyly presented her gift. Looking up at Prince Reynold, she said, "This insect repellent was specially made for you. Please accept it." However, Reynold wasn't impressed. He glanced at it and refused, walking straight past her. The Crown Prince actually rejected me. Kayla found it unbelievable and even tried to tug on Reynold's clothes. The whispers of the surrounding people reached Oiv's ears. I can't believe the Empire's white rose was rejected by the Crown Prince. Oiv also found it strange. In the novel, Reynold should have accepted Kayla's gift at this point. Could it be because of what happened at the tea party that the subsequent plot has changed? Seeing Reynold walking towards her, she quickly urged her mistress to present her gift. But Oiv didn't intend to have much interaction with Reynold. However, when she turned her head, she saw that Reynold had already stopped and was standing right in front of her. Oh no, Oiv panicked inwardly. She hadn't prepared any gift today. Under Reynold's expectant gaze, Oiv tremblingly and hesitantly pulled her handkerchief out of her pocket. Kayla's lackeys immediately started jeering from the side. She actually has the nerve to take out a used handkerchief. How could the Crown Prince possibly want something like that? The green tea appeared again, putting on an air of superiority. His Highness wouldn't accept any of our gifts. We just need to let him understand our feelings. She looked at the Crown Prince with a sincere expression, but the slap in the face came swiftly. Reynold reached out and took the handkerchief, gazing tenderly at Oiv. This scene made Kayla's eyes widen in disbelief. How is this possible? Then she saw Reynold take a step closer and lean in towards Oiv in an intimate manner. I helped you out of that situation. As payment, you have to do something for me when I get back, Reynold whispered to Oiv. After saying that, he took Oiv's hand and kissed it. Oiv immediately felt a murderous aura from behind, and her hair stood on end. On the verge of tears, she thought, "You're setting me up." Reynold continued talking to himself. "You owe me a big favor this time." Then he triumphantly mounted his horse and departed. A few days later, Oiv was still worrying about what Reynold would ask her to do. She saw Tia practicing knightly moves, waving a branch around. Suddenly, an idea occurred to her. She could ask Rao to personally teach the child swordsmanship. However, when Oiv made this request to Rao, Rao's face became extremely grim. He refused without a second thought. Tia thought Rao refused because she was of low status and he looked down on her. Seeing Tia's sadness, Rao pulled Oiv aside without a word. Suppressing his anger, he asked Oiv, "Is that child your new toy?" Oiv looked up in surprise. "Don't you know that following me, she will also suffer endless humiliation? This woman is terrifying." Not only did she make this knight dress as a woman to please her, but she also made him play with a puppy that had been starved for 7 days and nights. She even allowed others to gang up and bully him. After Oiv finally understood what the original Oiv in the novel had done to Rao, looking at Rao's dejected, retreating figure, she cursed inwardly, "I'm truly a terrible person." Then she remembered Rao's tattered sword. She remembered that in a swordsmanship competition, because of that broken sword, Rao narrowly missed victory and had been disheartened ever since. "I must protect my loyal puppy. I absolutely won't let that happen." Having made up her mind, Oiv went out alone to look for a weapon. But standing on the street, Oiv stared blankly at the swords on display. She realized she had no idea how to choose one. A nearby weapons shopkeeper invited her inside. Hearing Oiv ask him what constituted a good sword, he knew she was clueless. So he brought out a pile of old swords from the storeroom, deceiving her by saying each one was priceless. Oiv, looking at the dust-covered swords, felt something wasn't right. The shopkeeper continued his deception. These swords are all ancient magical swords passed down through generations. As long as you possess one, you'll be invincible. A blonde-haired man happened to see this scene from outside the window. He gave a playful smile. Oiv is about to be scammed. If I go help her now, she'll definitely be grateful to me. But just as he pushed the door open, he heard Oiv yell, "Are you trying to rip me off? How could a small shop like yours have so many magical swords?" "That's because we have connections." Before the shopkeeper could finish, Oiv said scornfully, "Con man, only a fool would believe you." She was about to storm out when she saw the blonde-haired man at the door. "Don't buy anything. This is a ripoff." Saying this, she grabbed the blonde-haired man and ran. The shopkeeper, seeing not only his customer run off, but also take another potential customer with her, stamped his feet in regret. After running for a while, the blonde-haired man was surprised that Oiv actually knew about magical swords. Oiv gave a casual excuse, relieved. If she hadn't read the novel, she would have believed the shopkeeper. She had only seen one magical sword in her life. Then the blonde-haired man invited Oiv to stroll around the streets with him. Oiv happily agreed. Suddenly, Oiv felt something behind her. Turning around, she saw it was a magical sword. The very magical sword that killed Oiv in the novel. Remembering the scene of her death, Oiv's body began to tremble uncontrollably. Leaning on the blonde-haired man, Oiv took a while to recover. She went to the stall where the magical sword was displayed. She asked the stall owner about the price of the magical sword. The stall owner, an old man, looked Oiv up and down for a long time. Without a word, Oiv pulled a pouch full of gold coins from her bag. The old man snatched the money pouch, muttering to himself. The blonde-haired man approached. The old man, eyes glued to the gleaming gold coins, retorted. The blonde-haired man grew a little angry. The old man also flared up. He grabbed the sword and tossed it at Oiv. Then he quickly packed up his stall and disappeared in a flash. Oiv looked at the magic sword in her hand, extremely pleased. She thought gleefully. The blonde-haired man watched the delighted Oiv. Suddenly, Oiv seemed to remember something. The blonde-haired man recalled how he had blurted out her name in a moment of urgency. He explained. Oiv shamefully recalled the commotion she had caused at the Camellia Ball. It was indeed hard not to be noticed. So, she extended her hand and formally introduced herself. The blonde-haired man took Oiv's hand and kissed it. He replied. Hearing this name, Oiv immediately withdrew her hand. Oiv was puzzled. Hearing a noise nearby, she looked up and saw Cha wiping the magic sword with a cloth. Cha grumbled as she wiped. Oiv stepped forward and gently stroked the magic sword. She told Cha, remembering the novel, where Reynold stood before the magic sword, and the sword, attracted by his protagonist's aura, clung to him like it was free. She couldn't help but shrug, but there was no time to waste. She had to awaken the magic sword quickly. Elsewhere, Reynold, in the military camp, had captured the inside man. Thanks to Oiv's warning, he had apprehended the man without difficulty. Reynold's eyes were unreadable. The inside man trembled with fear. Seeing this, Reynold ordered his subordinates. Then he looked towards the enemy lines. The next morning, Oiv set off with Rao. They arrived at Dragon Spring Mountain at noon. Oiv looked around. Then she beckoned Rao to follow her into the mountains. Rao, walking behind, looked at Oiv's back. Remembering all the humiliations he had suffered, a thought suddenly arose in Rao's mind. In this deserted place, if he killed him and blamed it on the mushrooms, he could regain his freedom. Thinking this, he slowly drew his sword and then suddenly swung it at Oiv. Oiv was considering which path to take when he heard the whoosh of a sword behind him. Immediately after, a sword grazed his face and stopped at his throat. Looking at the severed strands of hair, Oiv cried out in alarm. Rao suddenly exclaimed as if a snake had fallen from nearby. He calmly said that there had just been a snake, but he had taken care of it. So that's what happened. Oiv breathed a sigh of relief. He had been scared to death, thinking Rao was going to kill him. Rao calmly sheathed his sword. If it weren't for his knightly spirit, Oiv would already be dead. Once he revived his family and was released from his knightly vows, that would be Oiv's death date. At this moment, Oiv was unaware of Rao's thoughts and was still seriously looking at the map. In the novel, Dragon Spring Mountain was a hunting ground. His goal was the magic stones within the magical beasts. This time, he was determined to have a big haul. But while his thoughts were beautiful, reality was cruel. Even as dusk began to fall, they still hadn't found any magical beasts. Could it be that they really had to give up halfway? Oiv had a sudden inspiration. He took out all the remaining food and made a trap, preparing to wait for the prey to come to him. Rao looked at this with disdain. Oiv quickly tried to persuade him, saying that maybe this was the time when magical beasts came out to forage. If a magical beast appeared, Rao had to draw his sword immediately. Not far away in the forest, a black dragon smelled the aroma of the food and was walking towards it step by step. Oiv excitedly tugged at Rao's sleeve, signaling him to draw his sword quickly. Rao looked at Oiv with disgust as he grabbed his hand. Suppressing his displeasure, he raised his sword and slashed at the black dragon. With one strike, the black dragon coughed up a magic stone. Immediately following, another heavy blow landed. The black dragon crashed directly into a tree and fainted. With a dashing flourish, Rao sheathed his sword. Oiv's heart nearly leaped from his chest. As expected of his favorite puppy, he was simply too cool. He showered Rao with compliments that you're the strongest knight I've ever seen in the entire empire. He said, and was about to hug Rao. But seeing Rao's look of disgust, Oiv quickly withdrew his hand. Embarrassed, he said, I'm sorry. I forgot you don't like me touching you. Rao was taken aback. Oiv had actually apologized to him. The Oiv of before would never apologize to anyone. As Rao looked at him in confusion, Oiv picked up the magic stone from the ground, disgustedly wiping the saliva off it. He was overjoyed. With this, the magic sword would be his. Suddenly, countless red vines burst forth from the trees behind him, swiftly attacking. Rao yelled, "Watch out," and lunged forward, shielding Oiv with his body. The vines immediately wrapped around his arms. It's a ghost vine. Don't worry about me. Run. Rao yelled as he tried to push Oiv away. Are you kidding me? Oiv desperately pulled at the vines on Rao's body. I won't leave you alone. Seeing this scene, Rao's eyes widened in surprise. He actually cared about the life of a servant. He had really changed. At this moment, footsteps came from the depths of the forest. A man slowly walked out from behind the trees, clapping his hands in praise. What a touching display of deep affection. You little thief over there, if you don't want to die, return the magic stone to me. Oiv thought, it has to be the novel. Another incredibly handsome guy has appeared. But whose side is he on? Facing the strange man who had emerged from the forest, Oiv argued, we obtained this magic stone by defeating the dragon. It's not stolen. Just then, the black dragon woke up. Seeing the white-haired man, it acted happily like a puppy. It approached the white-haired man, seeking to be petted. The white-haired man sneered. Black dragon, are you talking about my pet? Oiv was shocked. This dragon is your pet. The white-haired man smiled faintly, that I am the guardian of all of Dragon Spring Mountain. Everything on this land belongs to me. His expression then darkened. And one can steal anything from under my hand. Oiv swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay calm. I can return the magic stone to you. But you have to release Rao first. Rao, hearing this, couldn't believe his ears. What? Oiv is actually willing to give up the magic stone to save me. The white-haired man's face was full of mockery that you're in no position to negotiate with me. However, you're somewhat interesting. If you stay, I'll let him go. Rao panicked. Don't listen to him. Don't save me. The white-haired man snapped his fingers. Vines tightened around Rao's neck, choking him silent. Don't hurt him. Oiv quickly shouted. The white-haired man's interest was piqued. Why don't we play a game? You both choose one person stay. If you choose the same person, I'll let you both go. If you choose differently, you both become dragon feed. Oiv agreed without hesitation. The white-haired man began to count down. Oiv's mind raced. Rao hates me so much, he'll definitely choose me. Meanwhile, Rao thought, selfish, Oiv will definitely make me stay. So, when the white-haired man reached the final number, Oiv and Rao both shouted, I'll stay. The white-haired man burst into laughter. Both Oiv and Rao were surprised, blaming each other for not choosing themselves. The white-haired man stopped their argument. According to the agreement, you both have to stay. Oiv spread her arms, shielding Rao behind her. I take responsibility for my actions. The magic stone was taken by me. Let him go. The white-haired man looked at Rao meaningfully. Why are you protecting him? Oiv awkwardly explained. All lives are precious, regardless of status. You really are interesting. Fine, I won't bully children. You can both leave. As the vines receded, Oiv grabbed Rao's hand. Let's go. Before he changes his mind. They hadn't run far when Oiv heard the white-haired man's voice. The truth will soon pierce the night sky and transform into a sword of judgment. Back at the Duke's mansion, the more Oiv thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. The imposter. Did he realize I'm not the real Oiv? In the novel, there was only one person who could control magical beasts and make prophecies. That was the strongest magician, the royal prophet, Cohen. Lost in thought, Oiv was suddenly summoned by the Duke. Arriving at the drawing room, Oiv immediately saw the person standing beside the Duke. What's he doing here? The white-haired man gave Oiv a slight nod. We meet again, young noble. The Duke was surprised they had met, but politely introduced him. This is the royal prophet, Cohen. He will be staying with us for a while. What? Oiv exclaimed, jumping up. This moody, dangerous person is going to live in my house? Cohen, seeing her aversion to him, explained, I'm staying here to fulfill your mother's last wish. He then gave a mischievous grin. But the specifics depend on your behavior. I'll decide whether to tell you or not. Oiv was furious. This sly fox. The Duke coughed and continued. For the next few days, I'll be in charge of the Crown Prince's triumphant return celebration. Oiv, you must take good care of our guest. For Oiv, this was fantastic news. Reynold is returning. Since he had won the war, it meant the story had changed. Does this mean I won't die either? A few days later, Oiv called Rao to the garden, prepared to give him the magic sword now inlaid with the magic stone. Rao, seeing the sword in the box, noticed it was much sharper than before. Then he saw Oiv lift the sword with both hands and offer it to him. From now on, you're the master of this sword. Rao was puzzled. You're giving me the sword? Oiv asked, her smile especially bright. Wasn't your old one broken? I was awful to you before, Rao said, looking into Oiv's sincere eyes, but I'll definitely respect you from now on. Rao finally reached out and grasped the sword. I hope what you said today wasn't a joke, he added. Then he ran off in a hurry. He's so cute when he's shy, Oiv thought. Just then, a voice came from behind her. Why did you give him the sword? Wouldn't it be better to keep it for yourself? Oiv said impatiently, it's none of your business. Cohen leaned closer to Oiv. Although the magic sword changes hands easily, it's ultimately a hidden danger in someone else's possession. Then he gripped Oiv's throat with both hands. Oiv felt a chill down her spine. She heard Cohen continue. Aren't you afraid he'll eventually still pierce your throat with it? This is bad, she thought, because of that two-faced woman's meddling. The powerful ally I finally secured is going to fly away. In the garden, Oiv impatiently shook off Cohen's hands. She reminded him not to touch her. Then, looking closely at Cohen's clothes, Oiv was greatly surprised. You're wearing that in my house. Cohen beamed. Are you smitten? If you like, I can marry you too. What is with this narcissistic weirdo? Oiv's face flushed crimson. She lifted her skirt and walked away, not forgetting to warn Cohen, don't follow me. Cohen grinned as he watched Oiv leave. When she was out of sight, the smile on his face instantly disappeared. How interesting. Not afraid of the magic sword, but afraid of me. But it's a pity. I can't see your future at all. Today was Reynold's triumphant return. Oiv dressed up meticulously, looking as beautiful as if she had stepped out of a painting. She couldn't help but exclaim, my lady, you're so beautiful today. Oiv looked at Cha and then dressed her in beautiful clothes as well. Why maid must also be radiant. Cha declared enthusiastically, my lady, I won't let you down. Oiv and her party walked down the street, looking at the lively celebrations. Oiv sighed. Father really went to a lot of trouble to welcome Reynold. Suddenly, the crowd around them erupted in excitement. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, has entered the city with the knights. Oiv was suddenly squeezed immobile by a throng of admirers. She turned around to warn Cha, but found they were gone. Oh no, I'm lost. Kayla, the two-faced woman, saw her from aside. How is this woman like glue? Wherever the Crown Prince is, she is. In the distance, Reynold approached, leading his troops. But Oiv was only focused on finding Cha. Suddenly, a pair of hands shoved Oiv out of the crowd, causing her to fall in front of Reynold's horse. Reynold was startled. Oiv, look out! The horse, frightened, reared up. Reynold pulled hard on the reins. Just then, a figure darted out and scooped Oiv away from the horse's hooves. Oiv, startled, looked up. Are you all right? The man in front of her asked with concern. Oiv looked up and saw it was Dices. Reynold saw Dices at this moment. Kayla, in the crowd, felt a pang of regret. She had almost succeeded in humiliating Oiv publicly. She hadn't expected the second prince to help her. However, letting the crown prince witness Oiv's ambiguous interaction with another man wasn't bad either. He should be very angry. After all, Oiv had sworn she loved him. Reynold was indeed very upset. Looking at Oiv in Dices's arms, he thought, I thought this woman was sincere towards me. Turns out it's not just me. It can be Dices too. Reynold felt a surge of anger. The knight beside him urged, His Majesty is waiting, Your Highness. Reynold suppressed his anger and moved aside. You're blocking my way. Oiv quickly stepped back and bowed respectfully. Safe travels, Your Highness. Reynold glared at Oiv. Oiv felt bewildered. Did I just anger him by blocking his way? Dices watched Reynold leave, a smug look on his face. Anything you care about, I will snatch away. He turned to look at Oiv, who had been caught stealing. He invited her to go shopping with him. But Oiv thought that if Reynold discovered the truth, Dices would certainly be punished. So she didn't want to have too much contact with him. But faced with Dices's enthusiastic invitation, Oiv couldn't refuse at all. In the palace, the emperor asked Reynold who was the mastermind behind the traitor. Reynold, remembering that the traitor had implicated Dices, chose to conceal it. He replied that he hadn't been able to find the mastermind. Afterwards, since Reynold had made a great contribution, the emperor offered him a reward. He then brought up Oiv. I heard you accepted her farewell gift before you left for the expedition. If you truly like her, Reynold thought of the woman who had claimed to love him, but was entangled with another man. He immediately interrupted the emperor. No, I don't like her. This is a dilemma that has plagued humanity for tens of millions of years. Should one choose the person who loves you or the person you love? This woman's choice is to have both. Back home that evening, Oiv seemed very distressed. Cha, while combing her hair, asked with concern, Miss, you've been preoccupied since returning from the celebration. Did something happen? Oiv didn't know how to bring it up. After hesitating for a moment, she pulled Cha close and whispered, Have you ever been confessed to by a man? Cha's face flushed red upon hearing this. Miss, I'm still just a child. What are you saying? Then she immediately reacted. Could it be that the second prince confessed to you? Oiv, her thoughts exposed, felt a bit embarrassed. How did you know? Cha pointed to the bracelet and said, Ever since you came home, you've been staring at the bracelet second Prince Dices gave you and sighing. Oiv couldn't help but recall the events of the day. Dices had said sincerely, I like you. I hope you can give me a chance to understand the real me. She couldn't help but cover her face in distress. In the novel, Dices is someone who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. Although I love handsome men, I really can't accept this kind of schemer. Cha misunderstood Oiv's meaning. She tried to help Oiv analyze the situation. Miss, although you are deeply in love with the crown prince, the second prince is also deeply in love with you. Everyone says that choosing someone who loves you will definitely lead to a happier life. Oiv looked helplessly at the gossiping Cha and closed the jewelry box. She thought sullenly, why do I have to choose just one? Wouldn't having a harem be much better? Suddenly, Oiv remembered that Dices had told her the youngest princess's birthday was coming soon. She was the youngest princess in the empire, and also Reynold's most beloved sister. In the novel, the manipulative female lead colluded with the head maid, Rona, and switched the gift Oiv had given the little princess with insects. As a result, the little princess's birthday banquet was ruined. The emperor was furious and forbade Oiv from attending any banquets from then on. That Rona is a hidden danger. I must deal with her as soon as possible. At that moment, in the second prince's residence, Dices was leisurely drinking tea and reading. Reynold suddenly barged into his room. He walked straight to Dices's side and sat down, asking, I didn't see you today. Where did you go? Dices put down what he was holding and gave an innocent smile. I went on a date with Miss Oiv today. We had so much fun that I lost track of time. Reynold was a little surprised. Are you two already dating? Dices continued to smile. I confessed to Miss Oiv today. He said he would think about it. Reynold's heart was filled with jealousy. He still needs to think about it? If he really liked me, shouldn't he have rejected Dices outright? Looking at Reynold's gloomy and unreadable expression, Dices asked his brother innocently, Why do you look so unwell? Reynold composed himself slightly that I've returned victorious for battle. Don't you have anything to say? Dices laughed heartily. That's truly congratulations. I knew you would win, brother. Reynold, remembering that the captured traitor only confessed to Dices, said sarcastically, I thought you didn't want me to win. Ducy was momentarily stunned. Does he know everything? But he quickly put on his standard fake smile that I know that you've been favored by father since childhood, so you certainly wouldn't disappoint anyone. Reynold's expression darkened further as he stared intently at Ducy. Something seemed to shatter within him. Why did it have to be him who betrayed me? Then, standing up, he said, I'm going back. Don't mention you and that woman in front of me again. I don't want to know. With that, he turned and left. Watching Reynold's retreating figure, Ducy let out a cold laugh. His expression became incredibly sinister. It seems getting close to Oiv really does provoke him. He really does care about her. This man is so strange. He clearly dislikes that woman. Yet he wanted her to be his dance partner and even tried to force a kiss on her. The little princess's birthday was approaching, and Oiv decided to make a gift for her personally. Cohen casually picked up a dried flower. This is the gift you're preparing? These worthless scraps of paper and dead flowers. Oiv was a little annoyed. This is called a greeting card. And those are dried flowers. Cohen was curious. What can you possibly make with these things? Oiv showed the finished card to Cohen. Cohen leaned in curiously. He had never seen such an interesting card before. He asked with a smile, Little noble, where did you learn to make this? Is it from your original world? Oiv really didn't want to talk about this topic and pretended not to hear. Seeing Oiv's reaction, Cohen chuckled that don't be nervous. I won't expose you. After all, I'm still looking forward to more surprises from you. Oiv's head hurt even more. When is this guy going to leave my house? Sighing, Oiv picked up the card. It would be even better if it could sing. Cohen was a little surprised. Sing? What's singing? Oiv explained, like when you open the card, beautiful music plays from inside. Cohen said dismissively, that magic is very simple. Oiv was surprised that such magic existed. She excitedly grabbed Cohen's hand. Can you do it? Cohen, looking at his hand held by Oiv, was in a great mood. Stroking Oiv's face, he reassured her, don't forget, I'm the most powerful magician in the Empire. Of course, I can do anything. Oiv instantly turned into a little fangirl, feeling as if Cohen's figure had grown taller. Master Magician. Just then, Cha came to deliver a message. Miss, His Highness the Crown Prince is here. After some preparation, Oiv arrived at the drawing room. Seeing Reynold, she politely curtsied. She sat down opposite him. Your Highness, is there something you need? Reynold said a little awkwardly, about the incident at the celebration. You weren't hurt, were you? Oiv quickly waved her hands. No. I was fortunate that His Highness the Second Prince helped me at that time. The Second Prince again. Hearing Ducy's name, Reynold's entire demeanor darkened considerably. He turned his head and muttered softly, even without him, I would have stopped the horse in time. I wouldn't have let you get hurt. Adjusting his composure, Reynold sat up straight again. He pulled out a handkerchief. I'm here this time to collect on your promise. Oiv, thinking he was going to ask her to do something bad, asked nervously, what do you need me to do? Reynold stood up and moved closer to Oiv. As he leaned in closer and closer, Oiv's heart felt like it was about to leap out of her throat. Just as he was about to touch Oiv's lips, Reynold spoke, the little princess's birthday banquet. I want you to be my partner. That's all he wanted to say? Oiv felt a little disappointed. She thought he was going to kiss her. Reynold straightened up and don't be so arrogant. Do you really think I want to marry you? You made a significant contribution to the victory against the Zeon Empire. This is your reward. A dress? This is ridiculous. How did you even come up with this reward? Reynold explained, because of what happened before, your image has plummeted. If you appear as my partner, no one will dare to criticize you. I can shield you from a lot of trouble. He then added, of course, this doesn't mean I like you. On the contrary, I hate you. Oiv rolled her eyes. I can see that. Reynold adjusted his jacket. I'll help prepare the gift for the little princess, he told Oiv. He turned to leave. Your Highness, please wait. Reynold turned back to look at Oiv. Thank you for your kindness, but I refuse. Reynold was incredulous. What did you say? Oiv said seriously, if restoring my reputation requires sacrificing someone else, I'd rather not. Reynold didn't expect Oiv to say such a thing. He emphasized, I'm a crown prince. No one dares to slander me. Oiv explained, even if it helps me temporarily, a fake relationship will only end up as a bigger joke. Reynold felt he had underestimated Oiv. He hadn't expected her to think so deeply. Suddenly, he remembered what had happened at the celebration, and a pang of bitterness struck his heart. He sneered, you don't want to be associated with me. Is it because of my brother? Didn't you two enjoy the celebration together? And he even confessed to you? Oiv blushed and denied it. That's not it at all. Suddenly, Reynold grabbed her wrist and pulled her close. He then wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her into an embrace. He said seriously, you can be with anyone, but but not Dices. Oiv was overwhelmed by this series of actions. She stammered, "I would never go out with him." Seeing that Oiv didn't seem to be lying, Reynold felt much better. At least you're not completely stupid. In that case, I'll tell you a secret. Little Princess Gwen's favorite thing is dessert. There were bugs in the birthday cake for the princess. Who could have done such a thing? The day of the little princess's birthday banquet finally arrived. Oiv dressed carefully. There was a knock at the door, and Rona entered carrying the birthday cake. She praised, "I've never seen such a beautiful cake. The little princess will love it." Cohen agreed. With the birthday card, it's truly impressive. Cakes in this world were all small, and there was no concept of a birthday cake. Oiv was confident that she could win the little princess's favor with this. "But this isn't the cake I made for the little princess." Oiv questioned Rona. "Did anyone touch the cake after it was made?" Rona looked guilty and she recalled putting the bugs in and thought no one had seen her. Oiv couldn't possibly know. Could she have noticed something? Oiv asked Shia to bring a knife, preparing to cut the cake. Rona was shocked. Oiv questioned Rona again. "You have one more chance to confess." Rona continued to feign ignorance, claiming she knew nothing. She believed Oiv wouldn't ruin the gift for the little princess. Oiv sneered. Chu cut the cake. She brought the knife down. Sure enough, inside they found a large cockroach waving its antennae. Chu exclaimed, "Miss, there's a bug in the cake." Rona immediately knelt down and made excuses, claiming she didn't know how the bug got there. Oiv exposed her directly. "Didn't you put it in there yourself?" Then she called on Chow to testify. "I saw her put the bug in with my own eyes." Oiv asked righteously, "What do you have to say now?" Rona said, "So you suspected me all along." Oiv interrupted him. "What exactly did Kayla promise you?" Rona stopped pretending to be afraid. "Miss Kayla promised me a job in Erlita." Oiv scoffed that you're fired. "Someone, get her out of here." Being pushed and swept away, Rona continued to taunt her relentlessly. "Oh, what if you fire me? You've ruined the cake for the little princess. I've achieved my goal." Unrepentant, announce her misdeeds to the nobility. "You want a job hop? I'll make sure you're never hired again." Rona finally panicked. "You can't do that." Before she could finish, the guards dragged her out. Finally rid of a major threat, Oiv seemed particularly happy. Cohen, however, was a little worried. The birthday present is ruined. "What are you going to do now?" Oiv declared triumphantly, "I always have a backup plan." Then she clapped her hands. Rao entered, carrying an identical cake. "Surprise! I made 2 identical cakes. What's going on? How'd I suddenly get cornered by a handsome guy?" The little princess's birthday banquet began. Various prominent figures and nobles of the empire gathered. At this moment, Inaburia was inviting the manipulative Kayla. "Miss Kayla, you're the most beautiful lady I have ever seen. Would you be my partner?" Kayla subtly changed the subject, asking about the Oiv family. Is it true that Oiv is suppressing the Inaburia family's business? Inaburia explained, "Our 2 families have always had some business disputes. It's not because of the broken engagement." Kayla feigned relief. "That's good, because the broken engagement was caused by me. I often feel uneasy about it." She thought to herself, as if it's all Oiv's fault for stealing my spotlight. Inaburia, thinking Kayla was feeling guilty, continued to comfort her. "Oiv is so vicious. She's not suitable to be our family's future mistress." He took Kayla's hand. "I in my heart, only Miss Kayla is capable of filling that position." Then he gently kissed the back of Kayla's hand. Kayla, somewhat annoyed, discreetly withdrew her hand. "You flatter me too much. My father is only an earl. How dare I aspire so high?" She thought disdainfully, "Humph. Someone who was dumped dares to have designs on me." Then, her eyes drifted towards the princes on the other side of the room. Those were the kind of men she wanted to marry in the future. She wondered how her maid was progressing. But even if it wasn't successful, she had a backup plan. She would definitely ruin Oiv's reputation. Oiv, on the other side, was already ready. She cheerfully said to everyone, "Let's go." Cohen suddenly grabbed Oiv's hand. "Wait, come with me." Without further explanation, he pulled her into the dressing room. Oiv was still grumbling, "We're running out of time." Suddenly, the world spun, and she was pinned against the wall by Cohen. Oiv, looking at the handsome man, gazing at her intently, blushed crimson. Nervously, she stammered, What are you doing?" Cohen said in an unusually calm voice, "Take off your dress." Oiv was shocked. What kind of outrageous request was this? This was terrifying. She had finally caught the scheming maid and the manipulative Kayla, and now there was another trap waiting for her. Cohen pressed Oiv against the wall. I was going to wait for you to find it yourself, but it seems that's not going to work. Oiv was panicked. Find what? Just as her imagination ran wild, Cohen knocked on her head. Don't overthink it. Your dress has been tampered with. Understanding, Oiv quickly took off her dress. When she cut it open, she found royal emblems sewn inside. If this had been discovered at the little princess's birthday banquet, she would have been thrown directly into prison. The culprit was obvious. Oiv was shaken. The original story only mentioned Kayla bribing a servant to frame Oiv. She hadn't expected Kayla to tamper with her dress as well. Misusing royal emblems was a serious crime. Why wasn't it mentioned at all in the original story? What was going on? Was it because she helped Reynold, causing the original plot to change? But now wasn't the time to think about that. Oiv dismissed her uneasy thoughts and apologized to Cohen. Thank you so much. Otherwise, I would have ended up in jail. But how did you know? Cohen puffed up with pride. I am the Empire's top prophet. I can foresee many things about the future. Oiv suddenly understood. Right, this guy also knows I'm from another world. But Cohen's expression turned serious. Young noblewoman, I have something to warn you about. The future is already set. Those who attempt to change the future will suffer the wrath of fate. Oiv's face pale. What do you mean? Are you telling me to resign myself to fate? Impossible. I will never allow myself to die. At this moment, Rout pushed the door open. My lady, the banquet is about to begin. Oiv collected herself. All right, let's go then. I can only take things one step at a time now. As the banquet hall doors slowly opened, the gorgeously dressed Oiv, arm in arm with Cohen, entered the ballroom. Their outstanding appearances immediately attracted everyone's attention. There were compliments, but also quite a few disparaging remarks born of jealousy. Oiv sighed deeply. I shouldn't have entered with you. Cohen chuckled. What? Are you overwhelmed by my charm? Seeing Oiv's silence, Cohen became even more smug. My popularity among noble ladies is no less than the prince's. Don't worry, with me here, no one dares to harm you. The second prince, Ducy, approached them. Lady Oiv, you finally arrived. Oiv immediately curtsied. Ducy glanced playfully at the two of them. Oh, this is the reason Lady Oiv declined to be my partner. I originally thought you would come with my brother. Oiv gave a few awkward laughs, thinking to herself, I don't want to provoke either of you brothers. As melodious music began to play, Ducy extended an invitation to Oiv. Lady Oiv, would I have the honor of inviting you for the first dance of the evening? It's unbelievable. There's actually a man in the world who can see through a green tea's schemes. At the ball, Oiv declined Ducy's invitation. I've already promised Master Cohen that we would have the first dance. This time, she absolutely couldn't be led by the nose like at the celebration. Ducy's expression didn't betray a hint of emotion. That's truly a shame. I wish you both a pleasant time. Also, Lady Oiv, I eagerly await your response regarding courtship. Oiv quickly replied, yes. Cohen looked curious. You actually received a heartfelt confession from the second prince. Oiv had a resigned look on her face. Stop teasing me. Cohen gave a playful smile. Actually, compared to your ex-husband, the second prince is quite a good marriage prospect. Oiv was surprised. You even know about me and Inaburia? In the novel, Cohen always had the image of a recluse. She didn't expect him to know about this noble gossip. Cohen said dismissively, as long as I want to, I know everything. All right, you're amazing. But the second prince isn't my type. I'll find a suitable opportunity to refuse him. Cohen's interest was piqued. Ditto? What type do you like then? Oiv thought of the four male leads in the novel. Cold and calculating, mysteriously handsome and straightforward. No, the world is so big, why must I choose from among the four of them? She then earnestly said to Cohen, I like the type who can protect me and let me live to 100. Cohen laughed. That's an interesting answer. If we keep chatting, the music will end. He extended his hand to Oiv. Beautiful lady, may I have this dance with you? Oiv gently placed her hand in his, with pleasure. As the two danced gracefully on the dance floor, Reynold watched them from afar, silent. Kayla noticed Reynold standing alone and hurried over. Your Highness, are you alone? Following the crown prince's gaze, she saw Oiv on the dance floor. I didn't expect Oiv to attend with Master Cohen. It's quite surprising. As far as I know, Master Cohen has never brought a female companion to a banquet. Reynold coldly interrupted her. Who Lady Oiv attends with is her own freedom. It's not for others to discuss. Kayla was momentarily speechless, but she persisted in asking, "Your Highness, aren't you going to dance?" If she could have the first dance with the crown prince, everyone would surely envy her. However, Reynold's words were tinged with anger. "Does whether I dance or not bother you?" Kayla quickly explained, "I mean, if your highness is so inclined, perhaps we could—" "Absolutely not," Reynold refused without a second thought. "Miss Kayla, I am not the little Marquis Oscardo. Please don't use the tactics you employ on other men with me. I detest scheming women." He wondered what gift Kayla would present to the little princess to gain favor with the royal family. In the banquet hall, Kayla, hearing Reynold belittle her so, completely lost control of her emotions and shouted at Reynold, "What's so good about Oive? Why don't you detest her? What makes her better than me?" The music abruptly stopped. The noisy crowd was drawn to Kayla's outburst. Kiki looked over. Kayla finally realized what a blunder she had made. Reynold sternly rebuked her. "Miss Kayla, you are behaving disgracefully." Humiliated and embarrassed, Kayla quickly apologized to the crown prince, but inwardly cursed Oive. This is all her fault. A guard announced, "Her Highness, Princess Wenger, has arrived." The palace doors slowly opened, and the king entered, carrying the little Princess Wenger. Once the king was seated, the guests present offered their greetings. Kayla looked at the little princess in the king's arms. If she could win over the king and the princess, her earlier disgrace would be forgotten. She would still be the empire's admired white rose. One after another, the guests presented their carefully prepared gifts to the princess. But the little princess seemed indifferent to the crystals and jewelry offered to her. Then Kayla stepped forward, holding a plate of pastries that "I specially prepared this cake for your highness. I hope you like it." The little princess immediately brightened at the mention of cake. Wenger loves cake. She eagerly took a piece and put it in her mouth. "Delicious." Seeing the little princess's happy smile, Kayla quickly mentioned the cake's origin. "These cakes are made by Master Lane. I'm so glad you like them." The king looked slightly surprised at the mention of Lane's name. "As far as I know, he only makes 10 desserts a year, and he sells them to whomever he pleases. Even the royal family is no exception. How did you acquire this?" Kayla respectfully replied, "Your Majesty, I persistently visited Master Lane for a month. Only then did I persuade him to sell me the cake." The king smiled as he watched the little princess enjoying her treat. "You've certainly gone to great lengths." Cohen watched Kayla, who had received the king's praise, with amusement. "That woman presented the cake before you. Are you sure there's no problem with it?" "Kayla presented it first to see me fail. I won't let her succeed." With that thought, Oive quickly stepped forward. "Your Highness, I also have a gift for you." The little princess asked curiously, "What is your gift?" Oive smiled and replied, "I also prepared a cake for your highness." The little princess pouted. "Cake again? How unoriginal." After Kayla had presented the little princess with a cake, Oive was also about to present her own homemade cake. With a clap of Oive's hands, Rao appeared in the banquet hall carrying a beautiful, large cake. The nobles present were all captivated by the impressive dessert. "This is the cake I prepared for your highness." The little princess, having never seen such a large cake, stared at it in awe. Then Oive pulled a prepared greeting card from her pocket. The card, as if it had wings, flew up on its own and began to sing, "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you." It's singing a birthday song. The card circled above everyone's heads as it sang. Oive explained, "This is my second gift for your highness." Oive inserted candles into the cake and lit them. "There's a custom in my mother's homeland. After listening to the birthday song, you make a wish on the cake and blow out the candles. Then your wish will come true." The little princess was overjoyed. "Really? If I make a wish, it will come true." Oive smiled and nodded. "Yes, your highness." The little princess closed her eyes and made a wish, then puffed out her cheeks and blew out the candles. The delighted little Princess Wenger fawned over the king. "Father, I love this gift the most. I want to invite you and my brothers to try this big cake together." The king looked at his youngest daughter with a loving expression and patted her head, of course. Not far away, Kayla snorted disdainfully. Once the cake is cut and the bugs are revealed, Oive's moment of glory will be over. But as the little princess cut the cake, and even shared it with Reynold and Dices, nothing happened. How is this possible? That maid is useless. Seeing how happy the little princess was, the king promised to grant Oive one wish. Everyone's gaze turned to Oive. Just when everyone thought Oive would ask to marry the crown prince, Oive calmly replied, "Your Majesty, I want to open a dessert shop." The king was stunned. Then he looked at Reynold with pity. Son, your charm seems to be lacking. No one expected that after her scheme failed, Kayla would target Oiv again. Dices was surprised that Oiv didn't seize the opportunity to request marriage, instead making such a trivial request. However, Oiv had her reasons. The ingredients for desserts in this world were monopolized by the royal family and nobles. It was not easy for commoner children to eat cake. Oiv then promised the king that if he were willing to open up the supply of ingredients, she was confident that she could make cake shops spread throughout the empire. Then, the children who could eat cake would forever remember the king's grace. Hearing this, Princess Wenger pleaded with the king. The cake is really delicious. Wenger also wants to share it with other children. The king sighed. I've heard quite a few rumors about Miss Oiv before. Seeing you today, Duke Vaya has truly raised a good daughter. I grant your wish. From today onwards, the royal family will supply all dessert ingredients to the Vaya family, free for 6 months. Consider it my personal investment in Miss Oiv. Oiv lifted her skirt and curtsied respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. After being idle for so long, I can finally have my own career. The crowd murmured, is this still the same Oiv? She actually gained the king's favor. Oiv happily watched all of this. Great. The negative impact of the broken engagement has faded. People really have to rely on themselves. Kayla, seeing that Oiv not only hadn't been embarrassed, but had also won a reward, was furious. This isn't over yet. At this moment, a noble suddenly stepped forward. Your Majesty, someone has just reported that the Duke Via's daughter has sewn royal emblems onto her dress. This is a blatant disregard for royal authority. The king was shocked. Investigate this matter. Oiv looked at the smug Kayla. This is your last card tonight, isn't it? Oiv respectfully said to the king, Your Majesty, I swear on the Vaya family's honor that I have been wrongly accused. Misusing royal emblems is a serious crime. Oiv, do you have any evidence to prove your innocence? Oiv stood up straight. I am willing to change out of my dress and let you inspect it to prove my innocence. With that said, the king delegated the matter to Reynold and left the bustling banquet hall. Oiv changed out of her dress in the room and handed it to Reynold. Reynold, however, didn't reach out to take it. Instead, he asked Oiv, when you made your wish earlier, why didn't you take the opportunity to ask my father to grant us marriage? You keep saying you like me. Don't you want to become the crown princess? Oiv appeared open and honest. I never thought of getting you that way. After all, you can't force love. Inwardly, she thought, I was worried that after breaking off the engagement, my family would arrange another marriage for me. So, I used Reynold as a shield. How could I actually marry him? Then she put on a pitiful expression that I know your highness dislikes me. So I've been trying hard to stop liking you and distance myself from you. Then she shoved the dress into Reynold's arms and prepared to leave. Your highness, the dress is yours. Please clear my name. Hearing these words, Reynold felt an inexplicable pang in his heart. Wait, you pulled Oiv back. What do you take me for? Liking me when you want and not liking me when you don't. Why? Why does your aloofness and politeness cause me pain? This is unbelievable. Kayla is actually trying to drive a wedge between the little princess and Oiv. Will the little princess believe what she says? Oiv, her hand grasped by Reynold, looked puzzled. Your highness, isn't this exactly what you wanted? You must be quite annoyed by my persistent public confessions. Reynold remained silent. Oiv did often act unpredictably, but did he truly dislike her? Seeing Reynold's silence, Oiv quickly withdrew her hand. S.O. It's better if we draw a clear line between us, then. If there's nothing else, I'll return to the ballroom. With Oiv's departure, Reynold felt a series of sharp pangs in his chest, but he ultimately didn't pursue her. Back in the ballroom, Oiv immediately spotted the little princess looking around in the crowd. Seeing Oiv approaching, her eyes lit up. She ran over with her little legs. Miss Oiv, will the wish I made really come true? Oiv crouched down and affectionately patted the little princess's head. As long as it's a wish made with all your heart, it will definitely come true. Suddenly, a sharp, sarcastic voice rang out. Miss Oiv, are you treating Her Highness like a 3-year-old? If every wish made could come true, wouldn't that imply divine power surpasses royal authority? This is a blatant disregard for the entire royal family. Oiv couldn't retaliate in front of the little princess. Miss Kayla, please don't escalate this to a political level. Kayla continued relentlessly. I apologize. I'm just kindly reminding you. It's fine for the little princess to be happy, but you still need to be mindful of your words. Lest someone with ulterior motives seize upon them and implicate your entire family. At this moment, a small hand tugged at Oiv's. Is she telling the truth? Will my wish not come true? Oiv held the little princess's hand and returned that of course not. It's just that the creator is a little busy. Why don't you tell me your wish quietly, and I'll help you make it come true. Kayla continued to chatter, Your Highness. You must be discerning. Don't be misled by certain people. Suddenly, the little princess turned to Kayla, adopting a regal demeanor. She declared, word by word, this doesn't concern you. You may leave. Kayla dared not disobey the little princess and could only hurriedly curtsy and excuse herself. Don't get too cocky, Oiv. If you can't fulfill the princess's wish, you're finished. Oiv leaned closer to the little princess. Oh, what is your wish? The little princess blushed slightly. Wenger wants Crown Prince Reynold to hug me and tell me happy birthday. I see. Oiv gently placed her hand on the little princess's shoulder and looked at her resolutely. Your Highness, you must be bold and say what you want. Only when you express yourself will he know your feelings. The little princess suddenly became upset that I'm scared. Brother Reynold seems so cold. I'm afraid to talk to him. Never whisper secrets behind people's backs. Big things can happen if you're overheard. Looking at the distressed little princess, Oiv comforted her with a smile. It's all right. I'll teach you, Your Highness, how to confess. The little princess's spirits lifted immediately. Wonderful. Oiv dramatically cleared her throat. Then, allow me to demonstrate for Your Highness. Your Highness, Crown Prince, I like you. At that moment, Reynold happened to pass by. Seeing their secretive behavior, he stopped. Oiv continued, because of you, I find the wind gentle and the snow romantic. You are the only hero in my heart. The little princess clapped her hands. Wow, Miss Oiv, you really like Brother Reynold. Oiv quickly denied it, that I'm just demonstrating. My reputation is too poor. I'm not worthy of His Highness. I'm just the original assistant. The tragic female supporting character he's destined to be with. I'd be grateful if he spare my life. Reynold, however, took her words to heart. So this was her true feeling. Oiv, sensing footsteps behind her, was terrified. When had Reynold appeared? Had he heard everything she just said? As Oiv panicked, Reynold spoke. Miss Oiv, were those words your true feelings? Oiv immediately admitted the truth to herself. He had indeed heard everything. She quickly pulled the little princess forward as a shield. Your Highness, Princess Wenger has something to say to you. The little princess shyly called out, Brother Reynold. Reynold's expression remained cold. Wenger, what do you want to say? Oiv quickly encouraged the slightly timid little princess. Your Highness, you can do it. Be brave and express your wish. The little princess took a deep breath and steeled her resolve. Brother Reynold, Wenger likes you. Wenger wants a hug from Brother Reynold, and I want Brother Reynold to tell me personally, happy birthday. He looked at their expectant faces. Reynold sighed helplessly. Happy birthday, Wenger. The little princess was overjoyed. And a hug. Reynold crouched down and opened his arms. Come here. The little princess excitedly threw herself into his arms. I love big Brother Reynold the most. Reynold tightened his arms and hugged the little princess back, finally showing a hint of a smile. Oiv watched the siblings embrace. She had finally fulfilled her mission of bringing them closer. Soon, the little princess was taken back to the ballroom by her maids. With the little princess gone, Oiv sensed that the atmosphere wasn't quite right and prepared to slip away quietly. But before she could take a few steps, Reynold grabbed her back. Stop. You're not planning to give up on liking me, are you? Why? Oiv issued a triple denial that I'm not. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. I was just showing the princess how to confess her feelings to you. Reynold's eyes sharpened at O. You're saying you were just playing around? How unbelievable. It seemed the male lead had successfully convinced himself. He heard Reynold ask, were those words really just a joke? Oiv nodded quickly. She didn't have Stockholm Syndrome. It was unlikely she would develop feelings for someone who was going to kill her in the future. In the ballroom, Ducy saw Cohen alone and was a little curious. Aren't you with Lady Oiv? Cohen smiled and replied, she has some matters to discuss with His Highness, the Crown Prince. Ducy was somewhat surprised that Oiv was with Reynold now. Cohen, with his all-seeing eyes, looked at Ducy. Your Highness, the second prince, there's something I've been wanting to say to you. Ducy quickly replied, I'm all ears, Your Highness. Sometimes, being overly attached to something that doesn't belong to you will only lead to greater loss. Ducy hadn't expected Cohen to see through his plans. He was stunned for a moment, but quickly recovered. Thank you for your advice. However, for someone who has nothing left to lose, grasping at everything is the only way to change fate. He would absolutely not give up on Oiv. Her abilities were not to be underestimated. If she and Reynold joined forces, they would undoubtedly become his greatest threat. He had to get her before Reynold did. Back in the room, Oiv was still subtly trying to distance herself from Reynold. That I know. I'm not worthy of your affection. Before she could finish, Reynold grabbed her and forced her to meet his intense gaze. Whether you're worthy or not is for me to decide. Besides, why would you think I wouldn't fall for you? What? How dare they bully his favorite little wolf dog? He'd have to give them a good beating for that. Back at the Duke's mansion, the Duke disapproved of Oiv opening her own shop. He believed she had no experience in business. Most importantly, Oiv hadn't told him beforehand and had made the decision on her own. Unforgivable. In a fit of anger, he told her to raise the funds herself. Oiv couldn't understand how things had turned out this way. She thought getting the royal approval would be enough. She hadn't expected her father to refuse to provide the startup funds. She had already boasted to Reynold about focusing on her career, although the circumstances at the time had forced her hand. Her thoughts returned to the banquet. Why would you think I wouldn't fall for you? Because your highness is focused on the future of the empire, while my reputation among the nobles has always been at rock bottom. Only by building my own career and proving my worth can I stand proudly by your side. Oiv didn't know why she felt so restless. She was clearly just trying to appease him, yet she hoped to leave a good impression on him. Reynold lifted Oiv's chin, forcing her to look into his eyes. That I hate being deceived and used. Remember, I'm not a pawn to be discarded after use. I will personally verify the truth of these words. If I find out you're fooling me, you're dead. It was another sunny day, a perfect day for training. Yet, Rao was cornered by several knights, covered in injuries. Rao, you've been getting quite cozy with the young lady lately, haven't you? Now you don't want to be the young lady's dog, but her lover? Know your place. You're no longer a noble. They slapped Rao's face hard. That if you don't listen, don't blame us for being unkind. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Who are you being so rude to? The knights turned to see Oiv had arrived. Immediately, feeling guilty, they retreated to the side. Oiv stood there imposingly. I'd heard rumors of bullying in the Night Order. I didn't expect them to be true. We spend so much money supporting you, not so you can bully your colleagues when you're full and have nothing better to do. From today onwards, the Night Order's daily training will be doubled. She then hurried to Rao's side. Are you all right? Rao turned his head away dismissively. It's not the first time. I'm used to it. Oiv immediately declared her loyalty. With me around, no one will be able to bully you. Rao looked at Oiv with confusion and bewilderment in his eyes. That my lady, you've been protecting and fawning over me recently. It's definitely not just because you want to gain a servant's favor. What exactly do you want from me? A woman who can barely read, yet can quote legal statutes at will. Faced with Rao's questioning, Oi's heart leaped into her throat. As expected of my little wolf dog, your intuition is sharp. Then she explained, feigning composure, I just want to make up for my past mistakes and earn your true loyalty. She thought to herself, I must win him over as soon as possible. Otherwise, according to the original plot, he will take harsh revenge on me in the future. Rao continued to question her. Oh, my lady, is there something you need here? Oiv suddenly realized something. I almost forgot the main reason I came. I want you to accompany me to the Craftsman's Guild. Rao was puzzled. You want to hire pastry chefs? Why not just ask the Duke? The Vaya family's Chamber of Commerce is one of the 3 largest in the empire. Oiv's head started to ache at the mention of this. Because of my willfulness, my father refuses to support my business. Now I have to rely on myself. Rao reminded Oiv, the Duke loves you so much. As long as you apologize, he will definitely change his mind. Oiv suddenly became serious. I want to solve these problems on my own, without relying on others. I'll figure out the funding, don't worry. The most important thing now is to recruit staff for the shop. I also need to train them before opening. Rao looked at Oiv, who was speaking animatedly, as if she were glowing. But he still wanted to persuade her to give up. Noble women don't like to be in the public eye. Most craftsmen look down on women in their hearts, especially in a mixed-up place like the Craftsman's Guild. Oiv couldn't believe her ears in a way. I'm paying them, and they're going to discriminate against me based on my gender? This sexism is truly inescapable. But in the end, Oiv decided to go to the guild. Upon entering, she immediately stated her needs to the manager. "Hello, I want to hire a group of pastry chefs." Seeing that she was a woman, the manager didn't even look up and tried to dismiss her. Oiv couldn't stand this humiliation that you're running a business. Shouldn't you treat every customer equally? The manager sneered mockingly. "Tell me, customer, is the money you're using to hire these people your own? Or is it from the men in your family? Can a woman even make such decisions?" This sarcastic tone infuriated Oiv. Of course, I can make decisions. Don't underestimate me. Thanks to the original Oiv's frequent shopping sprees, there were a lot of valuables at home. Once she exchanged them for money, she would have her starting capital. The manager didn't want to waste any more breath on Oiv. "This isn't a place for noble ladies like you to play around. Leave now." While they were arguing, someone was watching everything from above. The attendant behind him asked in a low voice, "Your Highness, should we go down and help?" Dices immediately refused. "Wait a moment. Let me see if Oiv has any real skills." Downstairs, Oiv's gaze was sharp. "You have no right to kick me out. According to imperial law, no chamber of commerce or craftsman's guild may obstruct lawful hiring practices without cause. Violators will be dealt with as obstructing imperial commercial development." The manager's face paled. He didn't expect a woman to know imperial law. Oiv pressed on. "I advise you to stop stalling. Otherwise, I will immediately report you for obstructing my business, and I'll have you thrown in jail." The manager realized he couldn't afford to offend this woman. He quickly nodded and bowed. "Let's talk it over. Miss, please come to the reception room, and we can discuss this calmly." Rao was completely stunned by Oiv's actions. Oiv, who could barely read, had actually read the Imperial Law Code. She had actually understood such a difficult book. After some discussion, the manager brought a group of pastry chefs to the reception room. "Miss, these are the pastry chefs you selected. If there are no issues, please pay the deposit first." Oiv hadn't expected to pay a deposit up front and was dumbfounded. She thought, "If I had known, I would have gotten some cash first." Making up an excuse, she said, "I didn't bring any money today. I'll bring it to you in 2 days." The manager's face immediately changed. The pastry chefs behind him began murmuring amongst themselves. "She talks a big game, but she's broke. No money, and she's pretending to be an employer. What a waste of time. I told you, women shouldn't be doing business. Go home and serve your husband and have children." Oiv trembled with anger at these words. Just as she was about to give the manager a good beating, a voice drifted over. "How much is the deposit? I'll pay it for her." He was a blatant liar, making things up as he went along, yet everyone believed him. Now, how is he going to get out of this? Oiv looked in surprise towards the direction of the voice. It was Second Prince Dices. He claimed he was just passing by and happened to see her in trouble. So, he wanted to lend a hand. Unexpectedly, Oiv refused his offer without a second thought. Dices immediately put on a pitiful expression. "Could it be, Lady Oiv? Are you rejecting me again?" The scene flashed back to the banquet. Oiv had told Dices that she couldn't accept his confession. Dices thought she had rejected him because she considered him inferior to Reynold. However, Oiv told him that the one who wasn't good enough was actually him. The reason she wished for a pastry shop from His Majesty was to improve herself, hoping to become as excellent as the two princes. Dices still wore the same pitiful expression. "Although Lady Oiv rejected me that day, I hope we can start as friends." Oiv politely responded, "It's my honor to be friends with His Highness." Inwardly, she was going crazy. What's wrong with this villain? Why does he keep pestering me? Dices continued, "Since we're friends, it's all right for me to help Lady Oiv pay the deposit, right?" Hearing this, Oiv quickly refused. "It's unnecessary to trouble your highness with this matter." Dices pressed on, "If you don't pay the deposit, other employers might snatch the people you've chosen. What will you do then?" He had already heard that Duke Vaya had cut off Oiv's funds. He believed that offering help at her most difficult time would surely make her unforgettable to him. Oiv, however, appeared very calm. She addressed the pastry chefs present. "If you want to find other employers, I won't stop you. But don't blame me for not telling you. The Empire's top pastry chef, Mr. Laint, will be working in my shop in the future." These words caused an uproar among the pastry chefs. "Really? Is that true? That's Mr. Laint, whom even the royal family can't hire. Rao was also shocked. Oiv had no money or connections. How could she possibly hire Late? Might be to choose a few promising students from among you. The pastry chefs instantly erupted in excitement. If they could receive Lane's guidance, their future would be secure. That I want to go too. Dices silently observed Oiv from the side. First Cohen, now Lane. How many more cards does this woman have up her sleeve that I don't know about? Seeing the excited pastry chefs, the manager worried that these artisans would become uncontrollable. He asked Oiv, "Do you have any proof of what you're saying?" Oiv declared, 5 days later, I will bring Mr. Lane to meet with everyone. At that time, the deposit will be paid in full. After delivering her impassioned speech, Oiv and her group left the guild. Rao felt uneasy and warned Oiv, if you're exposed in 5 days, both the Via family and your reputation will be damaged. To his surprise, Oiv turned her head with a cheerful expression. Are you worried about me? Meeting Oiv's gaze, Rao quickly looked away and muttered, I'm just fulfilling my duty as an escort. Oiv looked at Rao's flushed cheeks. Such a handsome man with such a thunder mouth. He's clearly worried about me. She decided to reassure him that don't worry. Since I dare to say it, I could definitely have a way to invite him. Meanwhile, Lane was raising his 2 children alone. But one day, his children suddenly disappeared. From then on, Lane lost interest in fame and fortune, spending his days searching for his children. Later, the heroine, Kayla, helped him find his children, and only then was she able to persuade Lane to make a cake for the little princess. Although I don't know how Kayla persuaded Lane this time, it's definitely different from the original story, because the bloodline Lane outwardly displays is that of Tia, the child he took in from Cha's family. He understands. When he finally announced that he had let go of his love for the Crown Prince, the Crown Prince began to feel insecure. He fled. He chased. He couldn't escape. Early in the morning, Reynold arrived at the Duke's mansion to discuss the royal supply process with Oiv. Oiv didn't expect Reynold to come in person for such a small matter. It seemed too dedicated. Reynold cursed his own lack of willpower. He had actually come here specifically to see her, yet pretended to casually inquire. I heard you went to the Craftsman's Guild yesterday and ran into some trouble. Oiv was practically sweating. How was he so well informed? How many informants did he have in the royal city? Reynold looked at Oiv seriously. Whatever difficulties you encounter, you can tell me. Assisting you in opening your shop is Father's decree. No matter what happens, I will help you. Oiv believed the plot had deviated from its course. She shouldn't die at Reynold's hands now. So, not wanting any further interaction with him, she declined, Thank you, Your Highness, but I don't need any help at the moment. But I heard the Duke cut off your funds. Oiv confidently replied, You don't need to worry. I've already chosen the craftsman. As long as I persuade Mr. Lane to work for me, the other craftsmen will naturally follow. Reynold was startled. Oiv's ambition was so great. That was the renowned #1 pastry chef. Truly a spoiled young lady. Never having run a business, you don't know the hardships involved. Sighing, Reynold wanted to advise Oiv, don't be so delusional. He's someone even the royal family can't hire. What makes you so confident you can hire him? If you lack craftsmen, I can help you find some. Unexpectedly, Oiv stood up abruptly and stared seriously at Reynold. No, it must be Andrew Lane. No one else will do. Reynold was surprised. Why are you so fixated on him? Oiv explained, the imperial dessert industry has always been monopolized by the upper nobility. If I open an affordable dessert shop, it's bound to harm certain people's interests. To fight back, I need a pastry chef with absolute prestige, who isn't afraid of those in power. And Mr. Lane is that person. Reynold hadn't expected Oiv to have considered things so deeply. He recalled how she had previously advised him on a plan to defeat the Jian Empire. He had originally thought that Duke Via was behind it, and that she was deliberately getting close to him so he would make her crown princess. But now it seemed Oiv herself was quite intelligent. But if she possessed such wisdom, how had she ruined her reputation before? Looking at the confident Oiv, Reynold couldn't help but be curious. What leverage do you plan to use to hire Lane? Do you have a plan? Oiv was brimming with confidence. Everything is under control. I'm just about to pay him a visit. Hearing that Oiv was going out, Reynold blurted out without thinking. Since Father promised to support your shop, he will subsequently be keeping track of your movements. To prevent you from causing trouble that implicates the royal family, I will go with you to see Lane. He immediately regretted it. Reynold, that excuse was too far-fetched. Oiv was indeed very surprised that you're going to. Reynold retorted, Is there a problem? Oiv mechanically replied, no, no. 2 heads are better than 1. It's wonderful that your highness is willing to go with me. Internally, she was ranting at Reynold. What's wrong with this male lead? Can he just stay away from me? Since Oiv agreed, Reynold stood up, ready to leave. Oiv gently rang a small bell. Cho immediately appeared at the door. "My lady, what are your orders?" Oiv asked him about Tia's situation. Cho perked up, his younger brother's eyes shining. "Thank you for your concern, my lady. Tia has been learning swordsmanship with Knight Rao recently. He asked me to tell you that he misses you very much." Oiv was relieved to learn they were both doing well. "Bring him here now. I want you both to accompany me somewhere." The siblings had lived in poverty since childhood, never having enough to eat. Their father, however, was the renowned pastry chef. This irony couldn't be ignored. When Oiv and her group arrived in front of Lane's residence, the main gate was already crowded with people wanting to visit. It was the first time Oiv truly understood the profound meaning of Lane's title as a master confectioner. "I didn't expect him to be so famous." Reynold was already used to it. All of this was within his expectations. "But by the looks of it, I'm afraid you won't even be able to see Mr. Lane." At this moment, the little person inside Reynold's heart was screaming frantically. "This is absurd. Because I want to be with her, I actually followed her all the way here from the Duke's mansion." "Reynold, you're crazy." Lane's butler was at the door, struggling to maintain order at MR. "Lane will only see those who have submitted a visiting card. Everyone else, please return." Oiv squeezed her way out of the crowd after a long struggle. "Hello, I'm Oiv Vivia. I delivered a visiting card last night." The old butler's eyes lit up to "Oh, it's the Duke, Vivia's daughter. Mr. Lane has been waiting for you." He then looked at the 2 people behind Oiv. Oiv smiled and introduced them. "These are Cha and Tia, whom I mentioned in my visiting card." The old butler came to the siblings and bowed deeply. "Oh, it's Miss Cha and Master Tia. My apologies. Please come in." Reynold was about to follow Oiv inside, but the old butler stopped him. "Your Highness, even you cannot enter without Mr. Lane's invitation." Oiv almost burst out laughing. She hadn't expected the male lead to be turned away one day. Then she smoothed things over. "It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. His Highness came with us." Hearing that he was with Oiv, the old butler stopped blocking him and immediately let him pass. But this made Reynold very unhappy. He hadn't expected his face to be less valuable than Oiv's. As the group entered the mansion, walking down the long corridor and through the beautiful garden, Cha felt a sense of unreality. This place was exactly the same as the house they had dreamt of. Arriving at the end of the corridor, the butler opened the door to the innermost room. "Sir, Miss Oiv has arrived." By the French window, a slightly plump middle-aged man turned around. Oiv pushed Cha and Tia forward. "MR. Lane, I brought your children back to you." Everything happened so suddenly that Cha and Tia were a little overwhelmed. Oiv gently told Cha, "Mr. Lane is your long-lost father." Lane looked at the children before him, their faces resembling his late wife, Sabafin. "Children, is it really you? I've been searching for you so desperately." Cha and Tia watched the middle-aged man walking towards them. His face gradually overlapped with the image of their father in their memories. He really was their father. Joy and grievance welled up in their hearts. They threw themselves into Lane's arms and burst into tears. Watching the happily reunited family, Oiv felt genuinely happy for Cha and Tia. They had finally reunited with their family, and they would have a much happier life from now on. Lane looked at Oiv gratefully. "Miss Oiv, you have shown great kindness to the Lane family. Ask for any reward you desire." Even though the villain's plot was about to succeed, the male lead kicked the female lead aside, only wanting to enjoy himself with the wicked Villainess. In the vast palace, Reynold strolled along the corridor with Oiv. They had just finished inspecting the food storehouse and were about to meet the food suppliers. Suddenly, Reynold stopped. "Miss Oiv, I have some business to attend to nearby. Do you mind if I take a short detour?" Oiv quickly said she didn't mind. "Please attend to your business first. Official matters are important." Afterwards, Oiv followed Reynold to the armory. The warehouse manager diligently introduced the items. "These are samples sent by the Bylan Merchant Guild. Please inspect them." Oiv couldn't help but react upon hearing the name. Bylan Merchant Guild? That pirate merchant guild that specialized in selling arms. The person behind the Bylan Merchant Guild was the villain, Ducy. In order to compete for the throne, he used the Bylan Merchant Guild to gather data on the military strength of various countries. Lost in thought, Oiv casually drew a sword. "It seems quite sharp, worthy of the villain's enterprise." Suddenly, Reynold reached out from behind and held the sword in her hand. Be careful. Oiv quickly apologized for touching it without permission. He must be angry, but Reynold simply took the sword gently from his hand. These weapons are very sharp. Be careful not to hurt yourself. Is he concerned about me? Oiv then heard Reynold instruct the warehouse manager. The samples are fine. Send the first batch to the royal palace. Oiv was startled. Is the deal going through already? In Dices's plan, he used high-quality samples to deceive the king and Reynold, while actually providing inferior goods. Fortunately, Kayla's father was in charge of the transport, and she inadvertently uncovered the scheme. She attempted to expose it, but was kidnapped. At the critical moment, Reynold rescued Kayla, and their feelings for each other rapidly intensified. I don't want to get involved in this mess, but if I don't, Reynold will be held responsible for this blunder. He's a good person. I don't want him to be in trouble. What should I do? Just as Oiv was in a quandary, she heard Reynold call her name. What are you thinking about? You seem so lost in thought. Oiv hesitated before speaking. Excuse me, Your Highness, there's something I'm not sure if I should say. Please be careful with the arms deal with the Ballroom Merchant Guild. I'll just leave it at that. It shouldn't have any repercussions. Reynold looked at Oiv thoughtfully. How did you know these weapons are from the Ballroom Merchant Guild? Oiv smiled, trying to brush it off that I heard Lady Kayla mention it. Your Highness, if you ask her directly, you might learn more. Reynold stared intently at Oiv's face, as if trying to discern something that I've never understood you. First, you actively provoke me, and now you're trying to push me toward someone else. I'll say it again, Miss Oiv. I hope you won't mention other women's names in front of me in the future. There are always all sorts of handsome men around this woman. They're supposed to be devoted to the female lead, yet they're always hanging around her. What's going on? Back at the Duke's mansion, Oiv collapsed onto the sofa. Dealing with the male lead is so exhausting. I can't understand what he's thinking. Sue, could you pour me a glass of water? There was no response in the empty room. Oiv suddenly remembered that Sue had returned to her father. I'm so happy for her that she's back with her family. But from now on, I'll be all alone. Not quite. A voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Little Noble, you still have me. Cohen had appeared behind her at some point. Oiv was very surprised. She hadn't seen Cohen since the birthday banquet and had assumed he had left. Cohen feigned a hurt expression. Seems you were hoping I'd leave. I thought you might miss me. Oiv blushed at being teased. Who would miss a narcissist like you? Cohen, unfazed, poured himself a cup of coffee. How are the preparations for the dessert shop going? I heard Lane is coming to work for you. Is it because you helped him find his children? Oiv was taken aback. How does he know everything? This man is terrifying. Cohen sipped his coffee leisurely and said slowly, I'm not terrifying at all. You are the terrifying one. Oiv felt a pang of guilt. Could he have seen into my thoughts? Cohen explained calmly, your thoughts are written all over your face. You always say I'm scary, but you understand the people in this world better than I do, don't you? Then Cohen changed the subject. Are you planning to use Lane to approach the Shadow Noble? Oiv said disdainfully, I would never do that. Mr. Lane has always disliked being involved with noble circles. But that's not what you said at the Craftsman's Guild. You also planned to use him to recruit craftsmen, didn't you? Oiv immediately retorted, that's different. Mr. Lane never rejects helping his fellow craftsmen. That's precisely what makes him so noble. Cohen smiled faintly after hearing this. See? You really do understand everyone better than I, the royal diviner, do. Then, he abruptly shifted gears. Actually, I have an investor I'd like to recommend to you. Oiv was surprised that Cohen would recommend someone to her. Who do you know? Cohen immediately mentioned a name, L. Ed? Mr. L of the 3 major merchant guilds? The one from the L Merchant Guild? The Empire's 3 major merchant guilds represent the King's Royal Merchant Guild, the Nobles via Merchant Guild, and the most mysterious L Merchant Guild, which was barely mentioned in the original story. The guild leader, Mr. L, is a meteoric investor. Both his financial resources and investment acumen are top tier. However, no one has ever seen his true face. He and his business empire are equally enigmatic. Oiv was thrilled. You actually know Mr. L? Cohen, seeing Oiv's amusing expression, couldn't help but walk over and pat her head. Get a good rest tonight. Tomorrow, I'll take you to meet him. Oiv hadn't expected things to move so fast. Really? A pang of guilt struck her. Could I have misjudged this guy? Is he actually a good person? Cohen gave Oiv a bright smile. He couldn't wait to see if the other party would risk exposing their identity and accept the meeting. Things were getting increasingly interesting. Does the female lead's halo even work on the mysterious president of the large merchant guild? He's actually invited the two-faced female lead to a meeting. Things were completely different from how they were written in the book. Early the next morning, Oiv excitedly went with Cohen to the El Merchant Guild. Looking at the magnificent decor of the El Merchant Guild, Oiv couldn't help but exclaim, as expected of the El Merchant Guild, "It's truly unique." Cohen, trailing behind Oiv, chimed in, "Indeed. If El is willing to see us, it would be even more perfect." Oiv was startled. "What? You didn't make an appointment?" She then watched as Cohen found the El Merchant Guild's manager and lowered his posture in a rare display of humility. "Excuse me. We sincerely hope Mr. L can spare some time to see you." Watching Cohen's ingratiating smile, Oiv inwardly scoffed. "Last night, when you mentioned Mr. L, you weren't this subservient." Cohen then turned and introduced Oiv to the manager. "This is the daughter of Duke Vaya. Please believe us. We've come with absolute sincerity." Oiv echoed his words, but felt that even her status as the royal family's #1 diviner wouldn't help. As just the Duke's daughter, she was certain she'd be turned away today. Suddenly, a sharp voice rang out, "Isn't this Miss Oiv? What a coincidence. I didn't expect to see you here." Oiv turned and saw Kayla. Why is she here? The original story didn't mention any connection between her and the El Merchant Guild. Confused, she asked, "Miss Kayla, are you also here to see Mr. L?" Kayla replied haughtily, "I'm different from you. I was personally invited by Mr. L." Upon seeing Kayla, the manager greeted her warmly. "Miss Kayla, sorry to keep you waiting. Please come in." Before leaving, Kayla couldn't resist a final taunt. "Miss Oiv, not everyone can meet Mr. L. What a pity." After the manager led Kayla into the room, she didn't see Mr. L. The manager told her, "Mr. L has other urgent matters. Someone else will attend to you." Kayla was taken aback. That wasn't Mr. L supposed to meet me personally? In the guild's hall, Oiv complained to Cohen, "It's all your fault for not being clear. You made us come here for nothing." Cohen defended himself with a smile. "I just wanted to lend you a hand." He patted Oiv's head. "Maybe a benefactor will appear any second now." Oiv brushed his hand away. "Cut it out. Things like that don't just happen." Just then, a man approached. "Oiv, why are you here?" Oiv hadn't expected to run into the Crown Prince, Reynold, here. Before she could speak, Reynold quickly explained, "I'm just out for a stroll. You certainly have leisure time. I'm here to see Mr. L. I was just turned away." Cohen fanned the flames. Oh, how pitiful. Miss Oiv didn't sleep all night preparing her business proposal just to meet Mr. L. Reynold felt a flicker of anger for some reason. "You didn't sleep all night? Why doesn't this woman take better care of herself?" Oiv explained, "There's no other way. To secure funding for my shop, I have to get Mr. L's investment. Once he sees my business proposal, he'll definitely be interested." Reynold had assumed her enthusiasm for opening a shop wouldn't last, but she'd gone this far. He felt a glimmer of anticipation. If she knew I was L, I wonder what her expression would be. The person she admires is standing right in front of her, and she doesn't even recognize me. Is this golden opportunity going to slip away? Seeing Reynold appear, Cohen seemed quite satisfied with the scene. He hurriedly excused himself from the two and prepared to leave. Oiv grabbed Cohen's arm in a panic. "You can't go. How could she be left alone with the male lead?" Cohen removed Oiv's hand. "Don't look at me like that. I'll be reluctant to leave." He then bowed formally to Oiv. "May the goddess of fortune be with you." With that, he turned and ran off without looking back. That unreliable guy. Oiv looked at Reynold awkwardly. "Your Highness, I don't think today is a good day to pitch. I'll be going home now. Goodbye." After saying this, she stiffly turned towards the door. "Since you're already here, why not stay a little longer? Perhaps I can introduce you to L." He sensed the person behind him stop. Reynold continued, "If you don't mind, could I take a look at your business proposal?" Oiv looked troubled. "Your Highness, this is a very important trade secret. It's not convenient for me to show it to others." Reynold scoffed sarcastically. "Are you afraid I'll steal your idea?" Setting aside my character, I am currently one of the managers of the Royal Merchant Guild. Do you think I would covet the trade secrets of a small dessert shop? Oiv immediately retorted seriously. Although my dessert shop is small in scale, it has everything. In terms of operating strategy, I'm confident I won't lose to any merchant guild. This piqued Reynold's interest. Quite the boast. "Put this on." He handed her a mask. Oiv looked at the mask in her hand with some confusion, not understanding his intention. "It's not convenient to talk here. Come with me." He took Oiv's hand and led her deeper into the merchant guild. Along the way, the guild members they encountered bowed their heads to him. Oiv was a little surprised. They can recognize the Crown Prince even with a mask on. As expected of Mr. L's subordinates, their eyes are sharp. After an attendant led them into a room, Reynold ordered, "You may all leave." In an instant, only the two of them were left in the room. "All right, no one will disturb us here. I've specifically cleared some time for you. Tell me about your so-called trade secret." I was a little angry, I said, other than Mr. L. "I won't reveal my plan to anyone." Reynold asked tentatively, "Is it L or no one? Aren't you going to consider other investors?" "Your Highness, I've thoroughly researched the guild's investors. Most investors focus on the entrepreneur's background. However, many of the projects Mr. L invests in are just commoners. This just shows that only those with true ability can gain his recognition. I want to gain Mr. L's recognition." Listening to Oi's various praises of L, Reynold couldn't help but smile. "It sounds like you admire L quite a bit. What if I told you I'm L? What would you do?" The person she had always admired was actually the one she had been trying to avoid. Oiv staggered back in shock. "Your Highness, are you saying you are Mr. L?" The Crown Prince pressed closer. "Why? Are you surprised?" Oiv recalled how she had seen the people from the L Merchant Guild treat him with respect. It wasn't because of his status as Crown Prince, but because he was the bona fide head of the guild. Oiv took out her business proposal with slightly hurried movements. Wait, if he invested in her, it would mean she would be entangled with a male lead again. Absolutely not. Oiv abruptly covered her proposal. "Your Highness, I've thought about it. You'd better not look at this proposal. Why were you so confident just now, and now you're so hesitant? Have you finally lost confidence in your dessert shop?" "So that's why." Reynold reassured her. "Why father doesn't know that I'm running this guild. And as for me being L, you're the only one in the world who knows." He had said so much, she should be able to sense how much he valued her. In reality, Oiv only felt fear. "Please stop talking. The more I know, the faster I die." Suddenly, Reynold leaned in, the distance between them shrinking dramatically. "You said here that you want to open the dessert shop on the cross street in Goya. Is there any particular reason?" "Of course." Oiv gave a determined smile. Goya Cross Street is located in the central area between the noble and commoner markets. The flow of nobles and commoners here is about equal. Reynold pondered for a moment. "You want to cater to both?" "Nobles and commoners have different consumption habits and tastes. Do you have a solution for that?" Oiv explained smoothly. "Imperial desserts have always been monopolized by the nobility. My affordable dessert shop will immediately attract a large number of commoner customers. At the same time, with Master Lane's presence, there will certainly be a large number of nobles who come seeking his reputation. Indeed, it addresses the commoner's biggest concern, price, and it caters to the noble's primary focus, prestige. It truly captures both markets." Oiv is even more clever than I anticipated. Oiv continued, "Not only that, but if nobles and commoners can frequent the dessert shop equally, it will quickly create a clustering effect, attracting more and more people. I want to transform Goya Street into a commercial street that bridges the divide between commoners and nobles. That's my current ideal." Looking at Oiv's shining eyes, Reynold was captivated. He couldn't help but admire her. "Miss Oiv, your business plan is brilliant. I'm very interested. Could you tell me more?" Oiv turned her head happily. Of course. "Huh." Her lips seemed to brush against something. A masculine scent washed over her. Reynold's wide eyes seemed inches away. Time seemed to stop completely. "This is bad. I accidentally kissed the Crown Prince. How outrageous. I'm going to lose my head." Oiv, coming back to her senses, hurriedly covered her mouth. "I apologize, Your Highness. I didn't mean to offend you." "You didn't mean to?" Reynold turned Oiv to face him. "Usually, when someone offends me, I retaliate on the spot." He gently caressed Oiv's face. "You must pay the price." Oiv's heart pounded with fear. The original story really can't be changed. Am I going to die at the hands of the male lead after all? Reynold gave a triumphant smile. In the next second, he kissed Oiv's lips. It all happened so fast. Oiv couldn't react to what was happening. She closed her eyes in fear. Reynold whispered, "Relax, or you'll bite your tongue." Taking advantage of the brief separation, Oiv barely managed a few breaths before another, more intense kiss followed. As if her thoughts were being drawn away, Oiv felt her heart about to leap out of her chest. Finally, Reynold released her. "You're the first woman who can get distracted while kissing me." Oiv, somewhat regaining her senses, asked, "Have you kissed other women before?" Reynold kissed Oiv's hand with a playful smile. "Only you. You kissed me once, I kissed you once. Now we're even. I'm very interested in your commercial street plan. I hope you'll give serious consideration to an investment partnership. Perhaps it's time to ask father for permission to marry. Leaving the merchant guild, Oiv was still immersed in the previous events. Her heart was still racing, and her lips were swollen. She hadn't expected to lose herself while securing an investment. Even if it was just the male lead's whim. That was her first kiss. Suddenly, a man's voice reached her ears that you're a disgrace. Come home with me. Oiv looked towards the voice. It was Kayla. She was being dragged by a burly man. Help, I don't know them. As soon as she finished speaking, she received a hard slap across the face. You slut. I caught you cheating. Just wait until we get home. The man then shouted to the surrounding people, move along. This is my wife. I'm dealing with a family matter. What's going on? The female lead has run into human traffickers. Kayla, the green tea bitch who always targets me, has been caught by human traffickers. Should I help her? After all, she's the female lead of this world. Kayla continued to struggle. What are you doing? Let her go. The thug remained unmoved. Who are you? What business is it of yours if I discipline my wife? Get lost. Oiv retorted righteously. She's my friend. She's not even married. What husband? Let her go. Otherwise, I'll call the city knights and have you all arrested. The thug tightened his grip on Kayla. You bitch. So you're the one who encouraged my wife to cheat. Men, grab this woman too. But Oiv showed no fear. She warned them loudly. I'm the daughter of Duke Vaya. You dare. This seemed to take the thugs by surprise. They exchanged glances. Duke Vaya wasn't someone to be trifled with. We can't afford any complications. Let's go. Oiv stretched out her hand to block their path. No one is taking her anywhere today. Afraid they would escape, Oiv quickly appealed to the surrounding crowd. These men are kidnapping my friend. Please help us. The surrounding people remained unmoved, unwilling to get involved. Seeing this, the thugs grew even more arrogant, taunting Oiv, don't delude yourself. No one will help you. Get out of here, or don't blame us for being rough. Suddenly, Oiv had an idea. Pointing at the thugs, she shouted, I remember now. You're the wanted criminals the night camp is looking for. There's a reward of 2 chests of gold for capturing you. The people on Wenyan Street instantly surged forward. 2 chests of gold. Capturing them would mean a lifetime of comfort. In a flash, the crowd swarmed the thugs. The gold is mine. No, it's mine. Kayla and the thugs were separated by the crowd. Squeezed within the throng, Kayla's hand was suddenly grasped. Come with me. Run. They didn't stop running until they had crossed the street and turned into a small alley, panting heavily. Are you all right? Were you hurt just now? Kayla asked, feigning composure that I'm fine. Even without you, I already had an escape plan. Then, as if stung by shame, she cried out, seeing me so helpless, are you happy? I've always been against you. You must hate me and wish for my humiliation. Oiv wasn't angry. Instead, she smiled and said, Miss Kayla, you seem to have a deep misunderstanding of me. I wouldn't stand idly by if this happened to anyone. Hearing this, Kayla turned her head away awkwardly. Still, you saved me. I owe you one. I'll repay you later. Oiv immediately refused that, no need. I saved you out of a sense of justice. I don't need any reward. Kayla interrupted her, shouting, I said I'll repay you, so I will. You're so annoying. Strange. Was Kayla always like this? Oiv mused. She had successfully rescued the Tsundere heroine from the human traffickers. After parting ways with the prickly heroine, Oiv returned to the Duke's mansion. Rao rushed to greet her. Why, lady, where have you been? Kun-sama asked me to fetch you from the Craftsman's Guild, but I went there and couldn't find you. Remembering what had happened, Oiv couldn't help but feel a little guilty. There was a small incident, but it's been taken care of. Sharp-eyed, Rao immediately noticed Oiv's hand. What happened? You're injured. Oiv then noticed the wound on her hand. It must have happened when I was saving Kayla. I must have scratched it on something. She quickly covered the wound, trying to brush it off. It's nothing. It doesn't hurt. But Rao took Oiv's hand and led her inside. As your knight, I failed to protect you. Please let me treat your wound. Looking at the slightly anxious Rao, Oiv was secretly delighted. This little wolf actually took my hand. Back in the room, Rao carefully disinfected and bandaged Oiv's wound. Don't get the wound wet for the next few days, and it will heal quickly. Oiv looked at her bandaged hand with satisfaction. Thank you, Rao. Rao looked up at Oiv with a self-reproachful expression. Protecting you is my duty. It's my fault that you were injured while out. Oiv, looking at Rao, who seemed as docile as a large dog, couldn't resist reaching out and patting her head. Rao, you've already done very well. Rao blushed and avoided Oiv's gaze. In any case, please be careful when I'm not with you. Oiv happily agreed. He didn't pull away from my touch. Does that mean he accepts me? Afterwards, Oiv and Rao discussed the preparations for the swordsmanship tournament. She learned that the knights were intensifying their training, hoping to represent the Via Knight Order. The swordsmanship tournament is held every 4 years, with each family selecting their best knights to compete. They compete for the championship medal. The champion knight will be awarded a noble title and land by the king, changing their commoner status. Rao, I believe you will definitely be the champion. Rao seemed slightly surprised to hear Oiv say this. He reminded her, if I win the championship, I will leave the Duke's mansion. He had initially been determined to restore his family's honor, but now that his goal was within reach, he couldn't bring himself to feel happy. Oiv, however, seemed very pleased. That's wonderful, Rao. You'll be free soon. Hearing Oiv say this, Rao felt inexplicably displeased. My lady, you seem to really want me to leave soon. Oiv didn't understand why Rao would ask this. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Rao turned away dejectedly. It's getting late. My lady, please rest well. He had thought that after spending so much time together, she would at least pretend to be reluctant. She's a heartless woman. This woman is only trying to avoid death by getting close to the man. But the man has fallen deeply in love. Watching Rao leave with a puffed-up chest, Oiv felt bewildered. What's wrong with him? Did I say something wrong? Meanwhile, Ducy was furious in his study. Idiot! How can he fail at such a simple task? The man kneeling before him trembled. Your Highness, I've already thrown those incompetent fools into the sea to feed the fish. The Crown Prince won't find any clues. Ducy felt extremely anxious. Today was supposed to be the day the Merchant Guild delivered the goods, but Reynold suddenly requested a delay and a reinspection. His behavior was so unusual. It must be related to taking Oiv to visit the armory yesterday. It's Oiv again. Whenever something involves her, problems arise. It seems the plan to win over Oiv must be expedited. The attendant cautiously reminded Ducy the plan to kidnap Miss Nearlight failed. Earl Nearlight, who's in charge of quality inspection for the goods, won't be on our side. Ducy decisively ordered, tell the Merchant Guild to remove the defective weapons and replace them with the finest ones. We absolutely cannot let Reynold notice anything amiss. We still need to maintain our cooperation with the royal family. The attendant worried, if we do that, we'll lose at least hundreds of chests of gold. Do as I say. Ducy roared impatiently, his eyes narrowing. I'll settle this score with Reynold sooner or later. Early in the morning, Oiv was inspecting the goods at her cake shop, even personally organizing them. Everyone be careful. Ingredients and consumables must be stored separately. As Oiv stretched on her tiptoes to place some goods higher up, an accident happened. Her footing slipped and the ladder tipped over. A feeling of weightlessness followed, that it's over. I'm going to die here today. With a loud crash, the ladder fell to the ground. But the expected pain didn't come. She had fallen into a warm embrace. Oiv's eyes widened as she saw the person before her. Your Highness, Second Prince. Ducy looked at her tenderly and asked with concern, Miss Oiv, are you all right? If the hero in a rescue scene is a supervillain, should the rescued damsel repay his kindness? Oiv quickly scrambled out of Ducy's arms and hurriedly helped him up. Your Highness, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Ducy gave a charming, gentlemanly smile. Hey, as long as Miss Oiv is unharmed, that's all that matters. Though grateful for Ducy's help, Oiv was puzzled by his sudden appearance. Her dessert shop hadn't even opened yet. How did the Second Prince get here? Ducy explained, the roses in my manor are all in bloom. I thought Miss Oiv might need them for your shop opening, so I brought some over. Of course, I also wanted to take this opportunity to see Miss Oiv. Ducy spoke sincerely and gestured to his attendants. Each of them was carrying a large bouquet of flowers. These were just picked from the manor. I hope Miss Oiv likes them. Oiv looked at the vibrant flowers with delight. They're beautiful. I've never seen flowers like these before. Ducy picked one out. This is a red heart flower transplanted from a mysterious island in the east. Its color is delicate yet auspicious. It's also called the maiden flower, as it resembles a shy maiden who has fallen in love. Ducy handed the flower to Oiv that I think it suits Miss Oiv very well. Oiv muttered softly, a maiden who has fallen in love. The image that appeared in her mind, however, was the scene of her kissing Reynold. Even now, his gentle touch seemed to linger on her lips. She forced herself back to reality. Oiv took the flower from Ducy. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not used to accepting such gifts. I'll pay you for them. Ducy looked like a wounded kitten, utterly pitiful. Miss Oiv, you've already agreed to be my friend. Don't be so formal about a small gift between friends. If you don't accept them, I'll be so heartbroken I won't be able to sleep. Oiv was about to say, this is an exception, when the door was suddenly flung open. Ch and Tia rushed in, followed by Late. Apologies, Miss Oiv. These two insisted I bring them here. Upon seeing Oiv, the siblings excitedly chattered away. Cha expressed his desire to visit Oiv often, while Tia wanted to continue learning swordsmanship from Rao. Late looked at the children tenderly and told Oiv, I just went to the artisan guild with the crown prince. The artisans will be able to come to the shop for training tomorrow. Oiv perked up at the mention of Reynold's name. His Highness the Crown Prince with you. Late then noticed someone was missing. Looking around, he said, that's odd. Where's His Highness the Crown Prince? He just came in with us. A series of sneezes echoed through the room. Reynold appeared, looking irritated. Who sent all these flowers? The villain had just sent the woman 9,999 roses. The male lead, smelling the flowers, arrived. This isn't good. Are these two about a fight? Reynold's displeasure was evident. Scowling, he demanded, who sent the flowers? And so many of them. Ducy's flashed his signature smile that I sent them, brother. I didn't expect you to be here. Oiv suddenly noticed Reynold's handkerchief. Her heart fluttered, and her face flushed slightly. Isn't that the handkerchief I gave Reynold? I didn't realize he still carried it with him. Ducy's was quite surprised by Reynold's appearance. Brother, shouldn't you be busy inspecting the armaments these past few days? How do you have time to be out and about? Oiv's position in Reynold's heart was clearly special. The batch of exchanged armaments should still be under strict inspection, yet he had specifically made time to help Oiv with her shop opening. Reynold, sneezing repeatedly, looked directly at Ducy's. I have my own plans. You needn't concern yourself with them. Seeing Reynold sneezing, Oiv suddenly remembered from the novel that the male lead was allergic to pollen. She hurriedly ordered the maids to remove the flowers. Turning, she saw Tia carefully carrying a plate of delicate pastries. Approaching her shyly, Sister Oiv, Dad asked me to make this cake. I wanted you to be the first to try it. Tia took a spoonful and offered it to Oiv. Sister Oiv, try it. Looking at the adorable Tia, Oiv happily ate the cake from the spoon. Her eyes lit up with delight that it's delicious. Tia, you could be a pastry chef at my shop. Tia, however, refused Oiv's offer. I don't want to be a pastry chef. He pointed seriously at himself. I want to be Sister Oiv's future husband. The little kid actually wants to marry the older sister. Barely knee-high, could he possibly beat out all the other admirers for the beautiful Oiv? Seeing Tia's declaration of love, Reynold and Ducy's both spoke up at the same time. I know. Tia looked aggrieved. Why not? Then, as if suddenly realizing something, he asked a soul-searching question. Do you also want to be Sister Oiv's husband? Ducy's maintained his gentlemanly smile. It would be my honor to become Miss Oiv's husband. Hearing this, Tia put his hands on his hips and threatened menacingly. So we're rivals in love then? He then turned a wary gaze towards the Crown Prince. What about your Highness the Crown Prince? Are you my rival too? Reynold was taken aback by Tia's blunt question. No one had ever been so direct with him about matters of the heart. Tia was about to say something more when Cha rushed forward and covered his mouth. Panicked, he apologized to Reynold that I'm so sorry, Your Highness the Crown Prince. My brother doesn't know any better. Please forgive him. Reynold smiled gently, reassuring Cha that he didn't blame Tia, that I think Miss Oiv understands that true love isn't something you just talk about. It's something you prove with actions. Oiv nodded vigorously in agreement. Exactly. In the original story, Reynold and Kayla often found common ground. This kind of equally matched, positive relationship led Reynold to believe that Kayla was the one he wanted to spend his life with. A mutually supportive love. How romantic. Reynold looked at the love-struck Oiv, speechless. He had thought that if he just gave enough, Oiv would eventually realize his feelings. But why was this foolish woman still oblivious? Half a month later, Oiv's cake shop finally opened. The cakes were affordable and delicious, and people flocked to the shop. It was almost overflowing. Cohen sincerely praised, young noblewoman, your cake shop will soon be famous throughout the entire empire. Oiv looked at her shop with satisfaction. She hadn't expected to actually succeed. This finally gave her a sense of security in this unfamiliar world. Ducy's also came to join the festivities. Congratulations on your opening, Miss Oiv. Seeing Ducy's, Oiv hurried forward to greet him. Welcome, Your Highness the Second Prince. Then, she peered behind him. Didn't His Highness the Crown Prince come with you? Ducy's calmly explained, "The Royal Merchant Guild is busy inspecting a batch of goods. The military governor is very busy. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it today." He had gone to great lengths to prevent Reynold from attending the opening ceremony, creating quite a bit of trouble for him. Oy felt a pang of disappointment. Oh, how could this be? We spent all that time preparing together, and he's absent on such an important day. Suddenly, Oy seemed to realize something. Wait, why do I care whether he comes or not? She had meticulously prepared everything, but the person who had been with her throughout the preparations wasn't there. It left her feeling a little lost. A small bird circled above the cake shop, chirping incessantly, "Welcome, welcome." Ducy's, having never seen such a bird, couldn't help but ask, "Miss Oive, do you also keep a talking bird?" Oive raised her hand, and the bird obediently landed on her arm. This is a parrot. Its syrinx is well developed, and its tongue is similar to a human's, allowing it to mimic human speech. Then, as if remembering something, she looked at Cohen with a mischievous smile. "Master Cohen, don't you think it looks a bit like you?" Cohen pretended not to understand the implication. "Are you saying its beautiful feathers resemble mine?" he said, deliberately lifting his chin. "I'm the most beautiful one here, after all." The parrot, hearing this, became indignant, flapping its wings and squawking, "Shameless! Shameless! I'm more beautiful." Oy was momentarily speechless. "You two are both quite annoying." Looking at the idle Cohen, she suddenly had an idea that you're so idle every day. It's such a waste of time. Why don't you come and help me at the shop? I'll pay you. Cohen chuckled and leaned closer to Oive, whispering, "If you wanted to keep you company, you could just say so, but some people might not be happy about it." Suddenly, the parrot flew up, squawking, "Danger! Danger! Scary! Strange man! Strange man!" A man in a black cloak, holding a bouquet of flowers, stood conspicuously in the crowd. The cloak covered his face, and Oive couldn't see his expression. She wondered, with that outfit, could he be an enemy sent to sabotage the shop? Nevertheless, she mustered her courage and approached him. "Excuse me, sir, are you here to buy a cake?" The cloaked man abruptly threw back his hood, revealing a familiar face. It was Reynold. Oive was startled. Ducy's had said he was very busy today, yet he had come after all. Reynold handed her the flowers. "These are for you." Cohen examined the bouquet carefully. "These are gloomnight lilies. They're quite rare. I believe their meaning is love may be late, but it will never be absent." What? The flowers a man gives a woman are fake. Exposed in public by his rival, their relationship seemed precarious. Cohen had just told Oive the flowers were gloomnight lilies when Ducy's interjected. "Master Cohen is very knowledgeable, but you're mistaken this time. These gloomnight lilies are fake." Reynold, taken aback by Ducy's sudden accusation, was a little angry. "How can you tell?" Ducy's explained unhurriedly. "Gloomnight lily seeds must be frozen throughout winter and only sprout the following summer. A similar flower, the dusk lily, grows near gloomnight lilies and blooms in spring and autumn. Its roots and leaves are only subtly different from the gloomnight lily, so people often mistake them." Ducy's chuckled and picked up a blossom. "This flower is notorious for masquerading as a gloomnight lily. Thus, its meaning is false love." Oy froze, softly repeating Ducy's words, "false." A faint sneer appeared on her lips. "Thanks for the subtle dig. After all, in this world, I'm just a fake too." Reynold, looking slightly nervous, apologized. "That I'm so sorry, Miss Oive. This was my oversight. I didn't expect the flowers I searched the entire city for to be fake." Oive quickly assured him she didn't mind. "It's just flower language. I don't think it's that important." Unexpectedly, Reynold looked at her seriously and held out his hand. "Give them to me. I'll throw them away." Oive quickly hid the flowers behind her back. "Please wait, Your Highness. I don't really understand flower language. And I don't mind if the flowers are real or not. I'm just happy that you came to the opening ceremony and brought me such beautiful flowers." In the original story, the male lead was allergic to pollen, so even during their passionate romance, he never gave the female lead, Kayla, flowers. "He's willing to make an exception for me. This gesture is truly precious." Oive thought happily. Then, she thrust the flowers at Cohen. "Master Cohen, since you're so free, please arrange these flowers for me. Be sure to use the most beautiful vase." Cohen looked at Oive with a mixture of exasperation and affection, saying nothing as he allowed himself to be ordered around. "Your Highness," Oive said happily, taking Reynold's hand. Please come with me. Ducy's watched them coldly, his arms crossed. He couldn't believe that, even after all his provocation, Oiv remained unmoved. Cohen smiled at Ducy's. Your Highness, he said to the second prince, a flower blooming at the right time is more important than anything else. He then looked tenderly at the flowers in his hand. Just like I don't care about whether they're real or not. As long as the flowers are beautiful enough to make the recipient happy, that's enough. If the male lead is going to marry the villainous female antagonist, what will happen to the female lead? Will she end up alone? Oiv led Reynold inside. While searching the bookshelves, she urged Reynold, please take off your outer robe. It must be very uncomfortable wearing it like that. Reynold obediently removed his outer robe and watched Oiv bustling about, somewhat lost in thought. Today's opening ceremony seemed to have gone smoothly. Even without him, she still managed to arrange everything perfectly. If only she relied on him more. After searching for a while, Oiv produced a small medicine box. Looking at the rash on the crown prince's neck, she scolded, Your Highness, since you're allergic to pollen, there is really no need to go to such lengths. I was already very happy that you were able to attend. Picking up a cotton ball, she continued, Let me disinfect this for you first. I'll apply some medicine in a moment. Reynold, looking at Oiv so close to him, couldn't help but ask, Are you Jint and Jimmy? Oiv blushed instantly and stammered, And no, it's just normal concern between friends, right? Reynold grabbed her hand, his expression sincere. We've already kissed. You still consider me a friend? This caught Oiv off guard. He stared at her intently until she felt her hair stand on end. Well then, Reynold suddenly pulled off his shirt, standing naked before Oiv. In that case, I also have a rash. Help me disinfect it too. Everything happened so suddenly that Oiv hurriedly turned her head away, chanting, See no evil, see no evil. Reynold scoffed, If you only consider me a friend, why don't you dare look? Isn't it normal for friends to care for each other? Since he had put it that way, Oiv could only steel herself and proceed. She carefully wiped the rash on Reynold's body. Touching his firm muscles, she felt a sudden thrill. Is this something I should be seeing? She thought. As expected of a seasoned warrior, his physique is truly impressive. Suddenly, Reynold grabbed her hand and moved it to his chest. Here too, and here. Oiv was forced to press her hand against his chest, her heart racing. Oiv, Reynold declared, I plan to ask my father for permission to marry you tomorrow. This unexpected statement stunned Oiv. Because of her presence, the original protagonist's relationship had been progressing slowly. It shouldn't be time for the marriage proposal yet. So Oiv cautiously asked, Your Highness, who are you planning to marry? Reynold looked at her as if she were a fool. You, Oivaya, I want to marry you. I accidentally maxed out the male lead's affection, and now he's proposing to me? Has this world gone mad? Reynold sounded slightly aggrieved. Why not? Last time you said you wanted to prove your worth and become a recognized crown princess. Now you've done it. Oiv's mind raced, but you don't like me. A marriage of convenience won't have a good outcome. If you value my business acumen, I can work for you. A large question mark slowly appeared above Reynold's head. You think I don't like you? Suddenly, everything went dark. In the blink of an eye, Oiv found herself pinned beneath Reynold. Things were taking a strange turn. She stammered, Why, Your Highness? Reynold looked at her seriously. Why previous actions may have been too subtle, leading to a misunderstanding. After all, I haven't been in a relationship before. But now, I will prove to you how much I like you. With that, he leaned down and kissed Oiv's lips, not releasing her until she was almost breathless. Then, he took her hand and placed it on his chest. You feel my heart beating for you. This whole sequence of events left Oiv flustered. Reynold caressed her cheek, his touch gentle that I wouldn't kiss a woman I didn't like. Do you believe me now? Oiv's mind was a jumble that I believe you. Reynold gently touched his forehead to hers. Since we like each other, why not get married? Were all the things you said to me before lies? Have you been deceiving me from the beginning? Oiv's face burned. She quickly defended herself. It's not like that. She had only wanted to become friends with the male lead to avoid her death, not to develop a romantic relationship. The image of Kayla pointing at her and yelling, You home-wrecking vixen, flashed through her mind. Seeing Oiv's hesitation, Reynold asked with concern, Do you have any other concerns? Trying to stall for time, Oiv whispered, Even if we have feelings for each other, we should still start by dating. Getting married directly is too fast. Reynold thought it made sense that I apologize. I was too hasty and impulsive. We do need a period to get to know each other better. but I don't want this period to be too long. For some reason, I have a feeling that if I don't hold on to you now, you'll leave me. Can you give me a definite time frame? Oiv trembled as she held up 5 fingers. 5 months. Reynold ignored her completely. 1 month of dating, and then I'll ask my father for permission to marry you. Don't refuse me. Seeing Reynold gazing at her affectionately, Oiv had to agree. While getting dressed, Reynold brought up the Ballroom Merchant Guild. They were indeed trying to undermine the Royal Merchant Guild. Oiv assumed Kayla had helped. Reynold looked surprised. What could a noble lady like her know? It was the commotion you caused when you left the guild that day that alerted me. The Ballroom Merchant Guild attempted to bribe Earl Neilrit, but he refused. Unwilling to give up, they planned to kidnap his daughter to threaten him. But you happened to save Kayla that day. Hearing this, Oiv felt like she'd been struck by lightning. What? I saved her? It's over. The original protagonist's relationship deepens at this. Hero saves the beauty plot point. I've accidentally stolen Kayla's favor. Oiv wanted to bang her head against the wall. What have I done? I've not only captured the male lead, but also the female lead. I can't just brush them off with a few words. Early in the morning, the shop door was flung open. Shopkeeper, where are you? Come out. Kayla had actually come to find her. Oiv was a little stunned. Miss Kayla, why are you here? Seeing Oiv's bewildered expression, Kayla became even angrier. How dare you ask me that? The news of your engagement to His Highness the Crown Prince is all over the noble circles. Looking at the aggressive Kayla, Oiv was dumbfounded. How could this be? I only agreed to date Reynold yesterday. I didn't agree to marry him. How could such a rumor spread so quickly? Who's behind this? In the palace, Reynold asked the man in front of him without looking up, how did things go? The man replied, as you instructed, the news has been spread. This way, the men in noble circles won't dare to pursue Miss Oiv anymore. Reynold nodded in satisfaction that you've done well. Oiv, I will make you willingly marry me. Oiv poured a cup of tea for the indignant Kayla. I did agree to date His Highness the Crown Prince, but I have no intention of marrying him. Please don't misunderstand. Kayla asked strangely, why not marry him? Are you playing with His Highness's feelings? Oiv quickly waved her hand, and oh no, I wouldn't dare. Unexpectedly, Kayla wasn't as agitated as she'd imagined. Instead, she looked serious. For saving me last time, I'm here to warn you. Too many people covet the position of Crown Princess. This involves the balance of power among multiple factions in the Empire. You'd better be careful. What? Isn't the female lead supposed to confront me? It sounds like she's worried about me. Both the male and female leads have been acting strangely lately. Is this even the same novel I read? Since Kayla seemed to have no hostility, Oiv was curious about her purpose. Miss Kayla, do you also want to marry His Highness the Crown Prince? Why are you telling me this? Kayla's face flushed red. She turned her head away haughtily. Don't misunderstand. I'm not concerned about you. I won't give up on His Highness the Crown Prince. I want to compete with you fairly. So that's it. Oiv sighed in relief. I almost thought the female lead's storyline had gone off track too. Seeing Oiv's silence, Kayla assumed she was reluctant to part with Reynold. She provoked, so what? Are you scared? Oiv wished she would take the male lead back. I accept your challenge, Miss Kayla. This scene happened to be witnessed by Reynold, who had just stepped in. He was so moved he wanted to cry. Oiv accepted a challenge for me. She really loves me. An hour later, the three of them appeared on the street with 800 new faces. Reynold glared at Kayla with dissatisfaction. This was his date with Oiv. Why was this woman tagging along? And she even took his place next to Oiv. Oiv, however, was focused on creating opportunities for the two of them. While the others weren't paying attention, she secretly untied her shoelace and exclaimed dramatically, "Oh no, my shoelace came undone. You guys go ahead, don't wait for me. I'll catch up later." Kayla looked at her with disdain. How clumsy can you be? You can't even tie your shoes properly. Oiv thought her plan had worked. But then, without hesitation, Kayla took off her own shoes. Here, put on my shoes. We should have the same shoe size. That way your shoelaces won't keep coming undone. This move was unexpected. Before Oiv could think of her next move, a figure stood between them. Don't trouble yourself, Miss Kayla. I can handle this small matter. Reynold glared back, meeting Kayla's hostile gaze. I learned a special knotting technique during the war. It doesn't come undone easily. Ignoring the strange looks from passers-by, he bent down and tied her shoelace. See? Now it won't come undone while you're walking. Oiv felt herself falling completely for him as the crown prince crouched down to tie her shoelace. In broad daylight, someone was actually selling a slave in the street. Was their three-person outing about to become a four-person one? A commotion drew their attention. and they looked toward the crowd that had gathered. They could hear a man shouting, "Come one, come all." A perfectly healthy slave, without a blemish. A real bargain. Oiv was incredulous to what's going on. This isn't a slave market. How can someone sell people on the street? As soon as she finished speaking, Kayla grabbed her hand. "Oiv, let's go. Let's see what's happening." Oiv let Kayla pull her toward the crowd. Reynold was left standing there, fuming. "Damn it, I want to hold Oiv's hand too." Kayla pulled Oiv into the crowd. Peeking through a gap, Oiv saw the kneeling slave. "Why is he tied up like that? He looks like an animal." Kayla snorted with laughter. "You used to do this too. Don't tell me you've forgotten." Oiv was exasperated. There was no way to refute that embarrassing piece of her past. The man in the crowd suddenly grabbed the slave's hair, forcing him to look up. "Let everyone see what this imposter looks like." He then explained that 17 years ago, someone had switched this child with his master's real son. The master, completely unaware, had raised him painstakingly. Until recently, the truth came out. My master finally found his real son and ordered me to sell this imposter to vent his years of anguish over the separation from his bloodline. This imposter received a noble education from a young age. He's skilled in both literary and martial arts. The highest bidder wins. After hearing the explanation, Kayla agreed with the man's actions. How dare he impersonate a noble? This imposter, his existence is a stain on our noble dignity. Oiv was puzzled. How can you blame him? 17 years ago, he was just a child who didn't understand anything. He's a victim too. Oiv empathized with him. He was too similar to her helpless self. She had inexplicably transmigrated into a novel, a victim of circumstance. Yet, she was assigned the role of the villainous supporting female character and had to pay for the original Oiv's actions, even sacrificing her life. It was truly unfair. At that moment, Reynold also squeezed through the crowd and casually remarked, "No noble would buy a slave with such a tarnished reputation." Hearing this, Oiv anxiously asked, "Then what will happen to him?" Reynold looked at her and coldly replied, "He'll die," just as the man raised his foot to kick the kneeling man again. Oiv stepped forward. "Wait a minute, I'll take him." The murderous and arsonist little villain was also seen by the woman. It had to be said that he had mysterious luck. Hearing that Oiv was actually going to buy the slave, Kayla leaned in close to her ear and whispered, "Are you out of your mind? Why would you buy someone like that?" Oiv ignored Kayla. She tossed a money bag to the man that there's 50 silver coins in here. "Is that enough?" The man caught the bag and grinned. "More than enough. This lowlife who impersonated Marquis Cage's son is now your slave." Hearing that the man was actually Marquis Cage's son, Oiv thought, "No way, it can't be this much of a coincidence." He's the abandoned imposter noble, Landlow, who becomes the villain Ducy's henchman in the original story. Cage, a pitiful character in the original story, abandoned by his parents. He fell from nobility to become a lowly slave, suffering greatly before turning into the villain Ducy's henchman. It wasn't until the male and female leads found his real parents and inspired him that he turned his life around. Saving a misguided little villain should be the responsibility of the male and female leads. But the two behind her were completely indifferent and couldn't be counted on. "Oh well," she thought, "I might as well be a good person to the end." As soon as Landlow was freed, he immediately knelt on one knee. "Miss, I have no way to repay your kindness. I am willing to be your ox or your horse at your command." Oiv quickly helped him up and explained, "I only wanted to give you back your freedom. You don't need to repay me." Landlow looked at Oiv with a pitiful expression, "But I'm homeless. If you don't take me in, I'll eventually starve to death on the streets." "What's the point of being free then?" Kayla whispered to Oiv. With his tarnished background, no noble will hire him. That was indeed a problem, and she couldn't let him get involved with Ducy's again. So Oiv said, "It's not impossible for me to take you in." Landlow immediately became excited. "Whatever Miss asks me to do in the future, whether it's murder, arson, or robbery, I will do it all, without complaint." Hearing Oliver mention being drenched in sweat, wasn't this the very definition of terrorist behavior? Watching the two of them chatting animatedly, Reynold's jealousy boiled over. He asked Oiv discontentedly, "Are you really going to keep him?" It was said that Oiv loved handsome men. He absolutely couldn't allow a man with such looks to stay by her side. It would be like harboring a tiger. Reynold suggested. We should at least know what skills he has. We can't just keep any useless person around. Oiv agreed that they should be cautious and asked Landlow what he could do. Landlow, who originally possessed a photographic memory, didn't tell the truth. He simply said he was proficient in arithmetic. Reynold muttered, "Words are not proof," and immediately pulled out a stack of accounts and handed them over. "Try these." Landlow respectfully took the accounts, quickly scanned them, and began calculating carefully in his mind. Before long, he closed the scroll. Confidently, he announced the result, a total loss of £10,500. Under the expectant gazes of Oiv and Kayla, Reynold declared the answer completely correct. "I never thought he could calculate so quickly. Although he's a promising talent, I have to find a way to get him away from Oiv." Suddenly, an idea struck Reynold. My personal accountant passed away a while ago, and I've been waiting for a replacement. Would you mind letting me have him? Oiv happily agreed. His Highness the Crown Prince thinks so highly of him. That's wonderful. After all, following the male lead is much more promising than following me. Landlow's gratitude towards Oiv was overflowing. "Thanks to you, Miss Oiv. I will forever remember your great kindness." Reynold came to Landlow. "From today onwards, I bestow upon you a new name, Hyde. From now on, you will follow me and manage my accounts." Hyde, having received his new name, bowed deeply to the Crown Prince. "ASU command, Your Highness. The villain may be handsome, but you should at least do something decent." Oiv finally got her little shop running, and you, just because you don't like it, are trying to ruin her business. The second prince, Foddery, received a report from the people he had previously tasked with investigating. The Crown Prince's marriage announcement was released by himself. According to reports, His Highness the Crown Prince has been frequenting Miss Oiv's cake shop. Recently, someone saw Earl Neilrit's daughter getting close to Miss Oiv as well. The second prince understood this. After Oiv saved that woman from him last time, their relationship had improved considerably. However, having Oiv and the Neilrit family, who control the Empire's port trade, on good terms is not good for me. It seems that disrupting the Royal Chamber of Commerce's arms deal was just the beginning. As long as this woman Oiv exists, the Byland Chamber of Commerce will never profit from the Royal Chamber of Commerce. The second prince slammed the book shut. "What I can't have, no one can have. Tomorrow, send someone to ruin Oiv's cake business." Early in the morning, Oiv played with a few stray kittens and said to Reynold with some worry, "The weather is getting colder and colder. Many kittens probably won't survive the winter." Mentioning winter, Reynold also looked worried. Every winter, the Empire's population declines sharply. Commoners die due to insufficient heating and food shortages. Regarding this, Oiv remembered this part of the plot. While the nobles feasted by the fireplace, ordinary commoners could only huddle in drafty little houses. So, Oiv took the opportunity to ask Reynold what measures the royal family would take this winter to help the starving and freezing people. Reynold was filled with helplessness. "I already proposed to the emperor to collect grain and manpower from the nobles and build heated shelters to ensure the empire's people have warmth and food during the winter. Unfortunately, it was ultimately rejected. In the eyes of the nobles, commoners were created solely to serve them. For the upper class to spend money and grain on commoners is foolish and would taint their bloodline." Saying this, Reynold couldn't help but feel a little sad. From this perspective, perhaps I'm the one who's wrong. Facing the dejected Reynold, Oiv suddenly felt a strong urge to support this righteous man. So, she blurted out, "Your Highness, I think you did the right thing. An empire that doesn't treat its people as human beings will collapse sooner or later. The population is the foundation of the empire. Only by safeguarding the interests of the people can the empire prosper. If there's anything you need, I will do my utmost to support you." Reynold was startled by these words and asked her for confirmation. "You're willing to support me?" Oiv firmly replied again, "Yes, I am." Being so unconditionally supported and trusted, a feeling of happiness welled up in Reynold's heart. Newly invigorated, he suddenly said to Oiv, "Oiv, you'll definitely make a good wife someday, and a good mother too." These words, inexplicably sounding like a confession, made Oiv's face flush. Flustered, she wanted to escape. "Your Highness, we should head back to the shop." Watching Oiv's hastily retreating figure, Reynold made up his mind. He would never let her leave his side in this lifetime. In front of the bustling cake shop, a noisy crowd surged forward. They incessantly yelled, "Give us back our jobs! Disgusting woman, get out of Goya Street!" Rouse stood in front of the crowd, loudly reprimanding them. "Get out of here. If you keep causing trouble, I'll draw my sword." But the crowd only grew louder. Oh no. A noble is murdering someone in broad daylight. Is there no law left? Oiv returned to see this scene and frowned at what's going on. What happened? Is the villain also lovesick? After working so hard to suppress Oiv for so long, is it just to make her realize that not firmly choosing him was a mistake? Oiv hurried through the crowd to Rao's side and asked him about the situation. Rao glared angrily at the troublemakers. "These people are saying you stole all the customers, causing their employers' shops to go bankrupt and costing them their jobs." Oiv considered the situation and found it absurd. Her small cake shop, even with booming business, couldn't possibly cause other shops to close down in just a few days. Reynold also arrived. "Oh, you need me to call the city patrol to handle this." Oiv remained calm. "No need. If I can't handle this small matter, I don't deserve to be in business." Then Oiv called out to the crowd, "Everyone quiet down. I'm Oiv, the owner of Via Cake Shop. If you have any issues, you could talk to me." A man stepped forward. "There's nothing to talk about. Close down and get out of Goya Street." The surrounding people echoed, "Yes, get out of Goya Street." Oiv's smile vanished, her expression turning serious. "I know every shop owner on Goya Street. I haven't heard of anyone going out of business." The merchants of Goya Street all knew she was backed by the royal family and the Via Merchant Guild. They wouldn't dare openly challenge her. There must be someone else behind this group. Had she offended someone recently? In a distant corner, two figures furtively glanced towards them. "Your Highness, everything is arranged. These people will protest in front of the shop every day. Soon, Via Cake Shop will be ruined by its damaged reputation." Ducy felt things weren't that simple. As long as Reynold was around, Oiv wouldn't fall so easily. However, Reynold always hates people who hold him back. As long as Oiv keeps causing him trouble, having to clean up her messes, sooner or later, Reynold will grow tired of her and abandon her. Then Oiv will understand how wrong her choice was and the heavy price she has to pay. Oiv coldly questioned the leader. "Who exactly put you up to this?" The man thumped his chest. "No one. We just want justice." Oiv pressed him. "Then which shop do you work for? What's your name?" The man showed a moment of panic, but he quickly led the others to continue shouting for Oiv to close down. Reynold had seen enough. He gestured for Oiv to step back, intending to deal with these people himself. However, Oiv remained composed. She reassured Reynold, telling him to leave this matter to her. She could handle it herself. Then Oiv deliberately, in front of everyone, told Rao to call the city patrol. "Since you're determined to make a big deal out of this, as you wish. If you're found guilty of slander and defamation, you'll bear the consequences." Seeing this, the troublemakers began to back down. The city patrol isn't easy to fool. If they find out the truth, they'll definitely throw us in jail. Seeing the situation turn sour, the leader tried to slip away unnoticed. However, a large sword blocked his path. Oiv gave him a final ultimatum. "I'll ask you one last time. Who sent you?" When the city patrol arrived, it would be too late to talk. The man dropped to his knees. "I can't say." Suddenly, a woman holding a child rushed forward and fell to the ground. "Miss, please have mercy. Please spare my husband. Our child is sick, and we simply can't afford the medical expenses. My husband only took that stranger's money to save our child. That person told us to come here and disrupt your business, to drive you away. Capture the ringleader first." Oiv was prepared to make an example of this man leading the disturbance. For a small profit, you slandered someone against your conscience. Slandering a noble is a capital offense. The woman pleaded for mercy. "Miss, please spare us. We won't dare to do it again. Please have mercy." Reynold asked Oiv anxiously, "Do you really intend to kill them? This isn't like you." Oiv winked playfully at Reynold. "I was just trying to scare them a little, teach them a lesson so they won't be used as pawns again." Reynold breathed a sigh of relief. "I see. That's the Oiv I know." Oiv expressed her opinion. The imperial system also bears some responsibility. Women aren't allowed to work after marriage, so men are forced into desperate measures. Catching Reynold off guard, she took his hand. "After you marry me, whether you want on a business or do anything else, I'll fully support you." Oiv's face flushed. "Why are you bringing this up in public? It's still early to talk about marriage." She thought to herself, "He's so gentle." Composing herself, Oiv addressed the crowd. "Since this is your first offense, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourselves. Your punishment is to distribute flyers for Via Cake Shop on Booyah Street for a month. I'll only pay you half wages, though." Who doesn't want a sea of sweet potatoes? Who doesn't want to swim freely in an ocean of potatoes? Early in the morning, the carriage arrived at Count Nearlet's mansion. Reynold was already waiting. He quickly stepped forward and helped Oiv out of the carriage. Oiv thanked him. "Thank you for coming with me so early to visit the Count." Reynold gazed at Oiv affectionately. "It's no trouble at all to accompany you." Oiv noticed Hyde standing behind him. Seeing Oiv looking at him, Hyde bowed deeply. "Miss Oiv, it's a pleasure to see you again." Hyde was dressed impeccably, a stark contrast to their first meeting. Oiv was genuinely happy for him. "It seems the Crown Prince has taken you under his wing." Reynold's jealousy flared as they chatted. He stepped between them, taking over the conversation. "Hyde has a photographic memory. I plan to train him to be the Chamber of Commerce's accountant, but he's still in his probationary period." Oiv praised Reynold. "Your Highness has a keen eye for talent. It's Hyde's good fortune to serve you." Reynold was pleased to have her attention back. "He's someone you gave me, so I'll certainly value him." Inside the mansion, Reynold asked curiously, "Why did you suddenly want to visit Count Nearlet?" "When a servant told me. I thought you were here to see his daughter." Mentioning Kayla irritated him. Her recent behavior had been quite bothersome. Oiv explained, "When we last discussed the commoner's winter famine, I thought of a few crops that have short growing seasons, high yields, and can even grow in the cold. But I'm not sure if they exist in the Empire, so I wanted to visit Count Nearlet, who manages port trade. He's well-traveled and might be able to help." A flurry of footsteps approached. In the blink of an eye, Kayla appeared before them. "Oiv, this is your first time at my house." Kayla enthusiastically took Oiv's hand, then noticed Reynold behind her. Her tone turned sharp. "Your Highness, what are you doing here?" Reynold retorted, "Why can't I be here?" Then, Kayla noticed someone else. "Isn't that the fake noble Oiv bought at the slave market?" Unnecessarily dragged into the conflict, Hyde suppressed his anger and patiently corrected her. "Miss Nearlet, I have a name. Please call me Hyde." Oiv quickly intervened. "The Crown Prince has freed Hyde from slavery. He's now His Highness's valuable assistant." Since Oiv had spoken, Kayla offered a perfunctory response. "If the Crown Prince values you, you must have some skill." She then happily pulled Oiv inside. Watching Reynold being left behind, Hyde was surprised. He'd heard that Kayla and Oiv were rivals, both vying for the Crown Prince's affection. But the rumor seemed a bit off. The Count was already waiting in the drawing room. After everyone was seated, he began with his customary flattery of Reynold. Reynold informed the Count that Oiv was the one with business. Oiv got straight to the point. "Count Nearlet, you manage the Empire's port trade and purchase various crop seeds from foreign merchants every year on the Emperor's behalf. Have you heard of sweet potatoes or potatoes?" The Count thought carefully, then regretfully told Oiv he hadn't. However, he offered to show her his seed collection. He kept all the seeds that were unsuitable for the Empire's climate and had been discarded. With Oiv looking on expectantly, the Count brought out numerous seeds, covering the table. Oiv was dumbfounded. She had only seen the actual sweet potatoes and potatoes, not their seeds. The variety of seeds on the table was overwhelming. The Count looked at Oiv. "Miss Vaya, are the seeds you need among these?" Oiv could only be honest. "These seeds are all so similar. I can't really tell them apart." Just then, someone next to her reached out and pointed at the seeds on the table. "This one and this one." Oiv looked up and found it was Hyde who spoke. His tone was very certain. "These two are the sweet potato and potato seeds Miss Oiv is looking for." He really was sent from another world to create this novel. What green tea heroine, what cold and aloof male lead, what evil villain, all knocked down. Everyone was surprised that Hyde could recognize the sweet potato and potato seeds. Facing Reynold and Oiv's astonished gazes, Hyde calmly explained, "I once heard Miss Oiv describe the characteristics of these two crops. They resemble a plant I saw in an overseas travelogue." Watching the eloquent Hyde, Oiv sincerely admired his photographic memory. This ability was truly amazing. However, Reynold remembered that these were discarded seeds. So, wouldn't they be unsuitable for growing in the Empire? Otherwise, why would they have been discarded before? Oiv was very certain. These two crops have very low requirements for their growing environment. Considering the Empire's environment, there should be absolutely no problem. Regarding this question, Count Nearlet gave an explanation. The reason they were discarded was that, as leafy greens, they couldn't fill the bellies of the commoners, and the nobles only used them as garnishes. They were eliminated for practical reasons. After listening, Oiv immediately realized that Count Nearlet had some misunderstandings about the edible parts of these two plants. She quickly corrected him. The main edible parts of sweet potatoes and potatoes should be their roots, not the leaves. Hyde strongly agreed with Oiv's statement. He even mentioned that he had read in a book that the harvest from 1 acre of these 2 crops could feed an entire village. Amidst everyone's exclamations, Oiv carefully picked up the seeds. Their growth cycle is very short. They can be harvested before winter arrives. Without delay, Your Highness, please inform His Majesty the King immediately and distribute the seeds to the commoners so they can plant them as soon as possible. Reynold was still a little worried. People have never seen these 2 crops. Popularizing them will probably be quite difficult. Oiv wasn't flustered at all. She had already thought it through that we can compile information about the 2 crops into pamphlets and distribute them throughout the empire. We can also set up a demonstration farm for the commoners to visit and learn the planting methods firsthand. Then she volunteered, Your Highness, if you don't mind, I can personally participate in the planting. This should greatly increase the survival rate of the sweet potatoes and potatoes. Hearing that Oiv wanted to get involved personally, Kayla immediately perked up. Oiv, my family has a vacant estate. Let's just plant them there. She was extremely pleased with her suggestion. This way, Oiv could come over often, and with her accompanying her, she wouldn't be bored anymore. And Oiv also secretly gave Kayla a thumbs up. Amazing. If the demonstration farm is at the female lead's house, Reynold will often come over and cultivate their relationship. As expected of the female lead, she's got the male lead hooked in one go. But Reynold was full of vigilance. This woman is really clever. As long as she keeps the demonstration farm within her reach, she'll be able to see Oiv every day. How can I let her get away with this? So, Reynold put his arm around Oiv. Let's do it that way. Then he changed his tone. However, Oiv's cake shop has been too busy recently, and she can't spare the time to do it herself. Hyde, you're the one here who understands sweet potatoes and potatoes best besides Oiv. You'll stay here and be in charge of planting. Consider it my first test for you. Hyde immediately accepted respectfully. He secretly glanced at Kayla a few steps away. Although staying here meant he would have to see that annoying woman every day, if he could fulfill Miss Oiv's wish, he would be very happy. After hearing their conversation, Kayla was completely dumbfounded. What? Oiv, the one I've been looking forward to seeing, isn't coming? Without delay, Oiv and Hyde spread out the materials and began discussing planting methods. The other 2 completely useless people could only obediently stay to the side. Looking at the serious Oiv, Kayla quietly asked Reynold, Your Highness, I really don't understand. Oiv only needs to be a young lady. Why does she have to bother with these troublesome things? The Crown Prince immediately felt a surge of superiority. He put on a profound look. Of course you don't understand her. After all, you're not me. Seeing the Crown Prince completely focused on Oiv, Kayla realized something extraordinary. She wasn't angry at all. Becoming the Crown Princess had always been her greatest desire. But why, now that the Crown Prince only had Oiv in his heart, was she completely indifferent to it? So even villains have birthdays. Facing Ducy's probing words, would Oiv give the male leads only cake to him? After discussing the future planting plan at the Count's mansion, Reynold escorted Oiv back home. Having arrived at the cake shop, Oiv thanked Reynold for his help that day. After all, he had been quite helpful. Reynold, however, insisted that she was the one who deserved thanks. Because of her help, the nation's famine was being resolved. Oiv quickly brushed it off, saying she had only offered suggestions. Reynold suddenly leaned closer, looking into her eyes. That you're so intelligent, with so many men vying for your attention. I can hardly wait to marry you tomorrow. Hearing Reynold mention marriage again, Oiv hurriedly tried to change the subject. Reynold reached out and stroked her hair. I know what you want, Oiv, he said, and I'll give it to you. The grandest wedding. I'll make you the happiest bride in the world. It was a new day. Oiv was watering the flowers by the entrance when a man watched her silently from a distance. The chaos he had painstakingly orchestrated a few days prior had been effortlessly resolved by her. Such a clever woman, and yet she couldn't be used for his own purposes. What a pity. Feeling the uncomfortable gaze from behind her, Oiv noticed Ducy, the second prince, standing on the street corner. Seeing that Oiv had noticed him, Ducy stopped hiding and walked towards her openly. It's been a while, Miss Oiv. I'm here to buy a cake. Oiv was quite surprised that Ducy wanted to buy a cake. I at a special occasion today. Ducy's replied calmly, not particularly special. No, it's my birthday. Oiv suddenly looked troubled. Your birthday? I'm so sorry, but there's only one cake left in the shop, and it's reserved for His Highness, the Crown Prince. Having said that, Oiv suddenly thought of something. Could it be that Reynold had specifically ordered the cake for Ducy's? But the two brothers were currently at odds with each other, so it seemed unlikely. Learning that Reynold had ordered a cake, Ducy seemed a little surprised, and why brother never used to like sweets. It seems his tastes have changed since he started courting Miss Oiv. Reynold didn't like sweets? He had told her his favorite was peanut butter cake. Ducy's continued, speaking calmly. Could you sell me the cake my brother ordered? I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Oiv refused apologetically. I'm afraid I can't do that. Hearing this, Ducy's immediately put on a heartbroken expression that I never intended to compete with my brother for anything. My mother was of low birth, so I'm destined never to have the same glory as him. He was born the crown prince, high and mighty, while I'm just the unwanted bastard son of a lowly palace maid. Hearing Ducy's words, Oiv couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. No matter what, the villain was indeed a victim of his circumstances. But his obsession with status and his unscrupulous methods led him to do many bad things, ultimately leading to his downfall. So Oiv tried to persuade him there's no such thing as high or low birth. As long as you find yourself and follow the right path, your life can be just as wonderful. Ducy's eyes instantly turned cold. He scoffed. How can there be no distinction between high and low birth? Miss Oiv, you're the only daughter of the Duke of Vaya, born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Someone like you will never understand how I feel. All I ever wanted was for someone to help my sick mother. But not only did no one care, I was even beaten for it. He couldn't help but sigh. Someone like me, perhaps I shouldn't have been born into this world at all. Oiv still tried to change his thinking that you're too pessimistic. If you're willing, we can all be your friends. And you have such an excellent brother in the Crown Prince, don't you? Ducy's gave a playful smile after hearing these words. Then, Miss Oiv, as a friend, can you give me a hug? He opened his arms, waiting for Oiv to embrace him. At that moment, an angry voice shouted no. The one who had humiliated him had given him the magic sword and arranged for him to participate in the swordsmanship competition. Wasn't he afraid that Ducy's would win the championship, revive his family's honor, and then return for revenge? Reynold stood between the two of them, his eyes full of suspicion as he questioned Ducy's. What are you doing? You know, Oiv and I are about to be married, don't you? Ducy's remained smiling. Congratulations, brother. I didn't mean anything by it. Please don't misunderstand. Reynold wasn't satisfied with this answer. Oiv quickly stepped in to smooth things over. It's the second prince's birthday today. He came to buy a cake. Hearing this, Reynold didn't say anything more, but he told Ducy's that his mother, Lady of Flame, was gravely ill. He had already arranged for the best physicians to attend to her, but it seemed she only wanted to see her son. Hearing this, Ducy suddenly looked panicked. He wanted to return to the palace immediately to visit his mother. After taking a few steps, Ducy suddenly turned back to thank Reynold. Thank you, brother. This time he was sincere. Reynold walked over and patted his shoulder. And no matter what, you're still my brother. Today is your birthday. Happy birthday. He then told Oiv to give Ducy's the cake he had ordered. Oiv was a little surprised. So the cake really was for the villain. He quickly took out the cake and offered it to Ducy's. Happy birthday, second Prince Ducy's, he offered. Ducy's was unexpectedly touched. Thank you, he replied. Not long after, Ducy's rushed to Orchid Palace, where his mother resided. With a woman's shriek, the birthday cake was flung to the floor. You idiot! At a time like this, you're still thinking about celebrating your birthday? Faced with his mother's accusations, Ducy's could only hang his head and admit his fault. But Flame was relentless. If I weren't pretending to be sick, that damned emperor wouldn't allow you to see me. I truly regret giving birth to you. Just look at you. Who knows when you'll finally defeat Reynold, take the crown prince's position, and get me out of this hellhole. Ducy's hung his head dejectedly, his face filled with sorrow. My birthday is also the day of your suffering, mother. I just wanted to remind myself not to forget your sacrifices for me. Flame glared at him in frustration. That's what you say. Don't think I don't know you've been targeting Viaja's daughter recently. The stupid things you've done to her. If they attract Reynold's investigation, you'll only be shooting yourself in the foot. She poked him contemptuously in the chest with her finger. Since you were little, you've never been good at anything. You can't compare to Reynold in anything. It's no wonder the Emperor looks down on you. If it weren't for my guidance, you would have been finished long ago. The swordsmanship competition is about to begin. That will be the best opportunity. As long as you kill Reynold, the throne will naturally be yours. Ducy was startled. What? You want me to kill my brother? Deflecting gave him a sinister look. Don't you understand? He's the Empress's son. As long as he lives, you'll never have your day. I've endured humiliation and hardship for you all these years, suffering in this hellhole. Do you really want me to die here? After being berated by his mother, Ducy was in turmoil. After a long silence, guilt towards his mother seemed to prevail. He made up his mind that I understand. I'll do everything as you say, mother. In the courtyard of the Duke Village's mansion, Rao was instructing Tia in swordsmanship. Seeing Tia practicing diligently, Oiv couldn't help but offer a few words of praise. Cohen believed it was all thanks to Rao's excellent teaching. Moreover, since Oiv had given Rao a new sword, his swordsmanship had reached its peak. In the upcoming night's swordsmanship competition, Rao was sure to make a name for himself. Cohen seemed quite certain. He mused that because of Oiv's scheme, Rao had lost his only chance to revive his family, ultimately leading to his downfall. But this time, her puppy possessed the most powerful magic sword in the world. He would win the championship and regain his noble status. By the time she snapped back to reality, the two had finished practicing and were walking towards her. Hearing that the swordsmanship competition was about to begin and that Rao would be participating, Tia excitedly cheered him on. Brother Rao is so strong. He'll definitely win the championship. Then, we'll hold a celebration feast for Brother Rao together. Oiv told Tia, somewhat wistfully, that after the swordsmanship competition, Rao would be leaving the Duke's mansion to return to his own home. Tia became anxious. Will Brother Rao come back to see us? Oiv couldn't help but feel a little sad at the thought. After leaving this cage, he probably won't want to come back, right? Rao was quite surprised. She actually knew about his desire to revive the Stewart family. So she knew he was using her. Yet why was she still letting him participate in the swordsmanship competition? Looking at Oiv's smiling face, a thought suddenly popped into Rao's head. What if I told Oiv that reviving the Stewart family and staying at the Duke's mansion aren't mutually exclusive? Would she let me stay? He was surprised by his own thought. He used to hate her so much, wanted to tear her to pieces. Why was he now reluctant to leave her side? Rao couldn't help but tighten his grip on his sword. If I really leave, will she be sad?